Okay, this is a lesson on the Mexican-American War. I'll give you my analysis of it. Uh, Once again, this is one of the wars that the United States started. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of them. Uh, Now, just as a review, we'll talk about the nature of history, right? We said history is like a court trial, right? You present your evidence and state your case. To manufacture false evidence is a crime, right? It's obvious. And also, likewise, to hide evidence, to conceal evidence is also a crime because in both cases, you manufacture a false perception, which is the essence of a lie, right? So I say, can history lie? Okay, a lot of people think, no, history can't lie. Well, what is history? Is history the way it was? A lot of people think that. Or is history the way people say it was? Right? Now, we examined some sources of history. So, some typical sources of history are, you get academic books, scholarly books, right? And, maybe a little bit worse, you have History Channel programs, some 1 hour canned program, right? And then you have news media, which is just a few minutes in a segment, right? And then you have Hollywood movies, right? Now, out of these, by far the worst is Hollywood. I call it Hollywood history. It's almost pejorative to me, right? I mean, it's crap history, right? So as far as quality, it starts here and goes down, right? But what is the most powerful history as far as influencing the people, the masses? Hollywood history, even though it's crap history, right? Because it's entertaining, it's dramatic, right? It has you biting your nails on the edge of your seat, identifying with characters, you know, identifying with their hopes and fears and aspirations and goals and and all they're going through, right? This stuff is dry. I mean, how many people remember anything from their high school, U.S. history course? Most people barely remember they took that course. I swear. Right? I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, oh, did I take that course? Uh, all right. So when I'm saying it, you cannot rely upon these sources, right? What that means is if you really want to understand history, you got to dig through the original source document yourself. You have to do some serious research, right? You can't just trust a history book, right? So much of our history is a joke, either pathetic work or flat out lies. Remember, I showed you how Pearl Harbor, the best book on Pearl Harbor is just loaded with lies, right? It's lawyer lies. I'm not going to go through all that again. I have to explain a lot, right? Uh, so, in my opinion, the typical history on the Mexican American War is crap history. I've read a number of books on the Mexican American War, and I've never read my analysis of the Slidell, the American representative going down to Mexico, his visit to Mexico, or a concise list of the provocations that induced the April 25th attack, right? So it makes me wonder: do historians even read these documents? Do they read them carefully? If they read them, right? And do they have the knowledge and intelligence to recognize what is going on? I question that, right? Now I know historians, professional historians are going to get all upset and you know emotional about this, right? But I'm serious. I just question it. All right. So now I want to talk about a device or a concept, we'll say, called historical landmines. And I'm talking about this with full anticipation that this will be attacked as crazy, as paranoid, as conspiracy theory, as believing in aliens in Area 51, some crazy crap like, right? It's going to be attacked, right? Now, I know it, so I'm putting myself on the line here, right? But I feel I have to because I almost fell for a historical landmine. Just the other day, just 2 days ago, I almost quoted this right here. And then I was like, well, you know what? I better go check the actual document to make sure, right? It turns out that my notes are mostly, original documents, but I do have some notes from secondary sources, All right. So what I say a historical landmine is it's an intentionally planted blatant errors or lies that are intended to discredit all the facts and all your work if you cite it, right? So it's meant to obscure history, if anything. So the lie that was passed that I almost fell for was it said this quote I took said Polk told Calhoun, President Polk told he was a senator at the time, Senator Calhoun, that he wanted California and New Mexico since way back when he was vice president, 1825 to 1833, right? Now this is totally loaded with falsehoods. First of all, Polk was never vice president, right? And during his time, he was a congressman. And Polk never said this to Calhoun. Calhoun said this to Polk. And Polk wasn't vice president. Polk was Secretary of State, right? So that's what this comes from Polk's diary, all right? March 30th of 1846 is the diary entry date, right? And I mean, with so many errors, there is no way that's an accidental mistake. All right. I mean, it's hard to make an accidental mistake like that to begin with, right? But with three errors like that, multiple errors, you know that this is intentional, right? And here's another one. This is a historical landmine that I did in fact fall for, and it pissed me off. It was written by Amy Greenberg in a very popular book recently, right? She wrote a book on this Mexican-American war called A Wicked War, right? I saw it at the bookstores, it's like way up front, being pushed, right? And she wrote in there, you see, these landmines often give you like a real tasty little tidbit that you want to jump on because it's like, holy, it's eye-popping. Like, what? They really said that or really did that? And it's a lie. So in this case, she said that Polk ordered a naval blockade in his January 13th, 1846 order to General Taylor. All right. And then she cites the exact place she got at the very bottom of the page. She cites exactly where she got it. Right. It's from the presidential messages. Right. Government documents published by the U.S. government printing office. All right. What page exactly? All this stuff. And it looks very legit. Right. And I quoted it. Right. And sure enough, boom, major attack. All of my stuff is crap. It's all bullshit. It's all a lie. Right? I'm like, holy crap. Right? So I had to go back and check that, and sure enough, it was wrong. Right? And that's the purpose of these landmines, to totally discredit your work. Right? So people are on edge, ready to attack. Right? You step on one of these, they'll make a huge attack. Point all focus on it, 100% focus, and that's all people will know. And they'll think it'll totally discredit all your work, right? So it blows up your work. It's a historical landmark. All right. Now, I tell you what, this made me so mad. If I knew what she looked like and I saw her in public, I'd have to really control myself not to punch her in the face. I'd seriously just want to. I don't care if she's a woman. I just want to punch her in the face for being a filthy liar. All right. So these are so blatantly false that cannot be mistakes. This cannot be a mistake, right? You don't mess it up that bad, right? So I believe they're historical landmines, intentionally planted juicy falsehoods to destroy credibility and so obscure and conceal history, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm afraid that I may have made a mistake here, falling for these, that I didn't catch it, right? And the liars are gonna, just zero in like a magnifying glass, on a sunny day, and focus all attention on it and blow it up, blow up all my work on one little thing. If I fell for something, so I just hope I haven't stepped on a historical landmine. If I did, this is what's going to happen. So I'll quote a historical landmine, right? The liars will immediately shift 100% of focus onto the mistake, right? Then the liars they'll attack and say, see, it's all bullshit. You can't trust the word he says, right? And then they'll make some sort of mocking joke, like he's an idiot, blah, 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 He's ridiculous, right? He's got no credibility, right? And then you control history. It may be only one out of 1,000 facts. 999 facts are totally accurate, but this one, they'll focus all attention upon that, right? The masses will not remember the 909. They'll remember none of it. Honestly, 99.9999% are not paying attention. They'll remember none of it, right? So this is the only one that's going to be undermined. And this is going to be their sum total of their reality, that one mistake, which is an intentionally planted little trap. But it'll be the only thing in the minds of the masses, so they will totally dismiss and regard all the rest, right? Plus, that lie corrupts. So let's say in this person's book, in Amy Green, typically what they do is this. In a book, they may have like 5,000 facts, maybe 1,000 facts, let's say, right? Among those facts, they'll scatter about a half dozen falsehoods that are easily proven false, right? Now, what that does is those falsehoods, they corrupt the question. They bring question to all the rest of the facts. They bring doubt, right? So now no one knows what to believe, right? And then what do people do? They go back and believe whatever they want to believe, right? They feel justified. And that's what people do anyways. Like most people, well, a lot of people aren't that honest. They'll all say they're honest, but they'll do stuff like that. They'll just believe what they want to believe, despite the facts. And they'll find some way of denying the facts, some ridiculous way of, rejecting the facts. They'll forget about them, put them out of their mind, right? And then they'll construct their own reality. Then people will believe whatever they want to believe, and thus history is controlled. All right. So I say, all right, again, people are going to attack. Oh, conspiracy theory. No one's smart enough to do that. I'm not that smart, so no one else is that smart, right? He's crazy. He believes in aliens, right? Man, this is so easy to do. And anyone with half a brain can do this, right? Anyways, so what this means is it means that the best of our history is crap. It can be crap, right? Not in all cases, right? But a lot of our history is crap. I'm going through a lot already, right? You can't trust it. You have to do your own original source document research, right? And who does that, right? Now, if I say a lot of our history is crap, a lot of historians are gonna get offended, right? So I say historians will attack because I called them out. Okay? All right, so there will be a massive wave attack, a social reality wave, which is based upon nothing, but it's based upon everyone saying so in unison, right? Even though it's not based on any facts. If everyone's saying so, then people take that as real, based on nothing. I swear that never changes. People fall for that forever. So there'd be a massive wave attack, but by who? Right? Any money, a whole slew of quote historians will attack, all in unison, saying his work is crap. But will they provide any evidence? No. Right? They'll just say it's bullshit, it's crap. Right? And they'll claim to be experts because, oh, hey, we teach history, right? Oh, bullshit, right? Do they do any of the original research? Hell no, right? Maybe 10 people write books on the Mexican-American War. Not many, right? All the rest just read books on the war, right? And even, general history books, they just go read, what other people say about the war, right? They never go to original documents. They'll say, oh, I've read a book, right? But then they won't retain much, honestly. People say that all the time. I read this book on, right? And then you ask them, what facts can you state from that book? And they're like, oh, right? So they'll claim they read a book and they're an expert on it, right? And they can't state a single thing from that book. Right? They retain nothing. So if they retain any, if the history teacher retains anything, all they retain is a little tiny fragment that they teach in their classes over and over again over the years, right? That's it. They may teach it so many times, right? Let's say you're teaching high school, right? Let's say you're teaching 3 U.S. history courses, a semester. So 3 history courses every damn day, right? After a while you remember it, but it's a tiny little fragment that you've taken out of a general secondary source history book, right? Can you trust them? No. But all these teachers, all these history teachers, these quote experts, right, will get together in a big gaggle and scream in one accord, "We be the experts. He's crazy. He's bullshit." Right? Now I'm saying 99.99999% of historians don't know crap other than the crap they read from some secondary source history book, written by a guy who cannot figure out jack or who's a liar. Right? I mean, this happens. I'm not saying all history books are that way, right? But a lot of times, if they're not lying, they don't even see what's going on. So it's truly a case of the blind leading the blind, right? But the social reality wave will dominate, even though it's based upon no facts or intelligent analysis, because 99.9999% of the masses will retain zero. All they have in their brains is a big, unintelligent social wave, and that's their total reality. What people are saying in one or two sentences, and they're like, "See, that's what's real," and you're like, you think no one's that stupid, but I tell you, everyone, they all fall for it. All right, introduction. So I want to go back to what I've taught so far. I've taught you a bunch of wars already. I taught you the Iraq Invasion War, how the Bush administration manufactured that war. I told you about the Vietnam War and the Gulf of Tonkin incident, how the LBJ administration manufactured that war. I taught you about the Pearl Harbor attack, how FDR both maneuvered Japan into attacking, then opened the door, right? And I said that's the only good war we fought. That was our good war, right? War of 1812, I told you about that. And I mean, there's no doubt that we started that. Okay. All right. So this will be the fifth war I'll be discussing how the U.S. started. But keep in mind, we have fought so many wars, right? Remember I showed you that list? I hope you remember. It's constant. Every year we fought multiple wars. Up to 7 wars in the same year, going on at the same time. So remember I said that we have fought 675 war years in our 244 years of existence, right? And the average American doesn't realize, nor will they want to believe that, right? If they don't remember that I told this, well, it's like, oh, that's not true, right? So they won't believe it because, there are 2 elements to perception, to beliefs. One is cognitive and one is motivational. And in most cases, it's crap. Both of them are crap. For example, the cognitive aspect depends upon how much knowledge you have and how much analytical ability you have, right? Which in a lot of people is very limited, right? And then motivation is just as huge, if not bigger, and that's what you want to believe and how you twist and distort and reject and, pick and choose. It's so easy to believe what you want to believe. It's so easy to structure it. And our beliefs are not what it is, but how we structure our perceptions, right? And, there's a term in sociology called self-serving bias. There's a lot of experiments, showing how extreme people bias things, right? I call it self-serving distortions here, all right? And that becomes your reality, right? People are like, no, I'm honest. Okay. All right, so Mexican-American War. Now, I say my challenge up front. All right, I have a number of challenges. One challenge is I'm fighting against social reality waves, right? These are simple, easy, supported by the masses, right? This is hard. You got to remember, this is based on facts that people don't remember. Intelligent analysis people don't remember or maybe are not capable of, right? Nothing in my lesson here is complicated. Everyone should understand this, right? But, will they retain the facts? Will they keep it all together? No, right? What is easy is a social reality wave in which everyone's saying something. This dominates. You can't fight this. Fight it with this when they don't retain this. It's hard. It's impossible. Then you're dealing with honesty versus lies, self-serving, right? Man, are you going to fight self-serving? Hell no, right? People are going to believe what they want to believe. If they're determined to believe it, they're going to believe whatever, right? Based on nothing. Ability of people to understand the subtle, clever lies in this. I mean, they're kind of subtle and clever, right? But again, they're not that difficult. No one should have trouble understanding this. Right? It's pretty straightforward. It amazes me that historians never see this. Right? Lawyer lies and fait accompli. That's a key thing that's done here. Fait accompli. Liars, there's going to be desperate attacks. Right? They may wait a day. Usually they wait a day after I teach this because after a day, right, immediately after I teach it, all the facts are not remembered. Maybe one or two or three, right? Right? But within a day, even the overall impression is gone. And that's when they attack. When that's faded, right? They make a big wave, and the only thing that's real in their heads is the big, dumbass, baseless wave that dominates because everyone's saying it. And it's the experts saying it, the quote experts. And then my last challenge is the risk of me stepping on an historical landmark. I just hope I didn't make any mistakes, but you know, and you know what? If I did, the liars are going to zero in, shift all focus on it, and say, "See, you can't believe any of it. Don't believe any of it. It's all lies." Right? And then people won't remember that I taught that this is going to happen. Right? So they'll fall for that. All right. So now what I want to give you is kind of the big picture of the effect of this war. Right? Everyone kind of knows the United States. This is a part of the United States here. Right? And this is like the Southwest. It's about 1/3 of our country. Here is 1/3. Here's like Northwest. Here's the East, right? So this is about 1/3 of the continental United States. This big chunk was taken in this war. That's how we got all California, Nevada, Utah, part of Wyoming, part of Colorado, all Arizona, all New Mexico, a little bit of Oklahoma and Texas, right? Through this war, right? So question is, well, how do we get this land, and how do we get this? We got this land through this war. So how do we get the war? All right. Okay. Now, we got the war by Polk convincing the Congress to declare war, and these are excerpts from his speech of May 11th, 1846, requesting Congress declare war against Mexico. Right. So when you see these italics, this is not exactly the way he worded it, right? But I did this to keep it simple, right? So Mexico has committed a series of long continued and unaddressed wrongs and injuries upon the citizens of the United States in their persons and property. This is not changing the meaning, right? This is just simplifying it, right? So he said, they've been doing this crap to us for a long time, and nothing's been done about it, right? Right. The United States holds a strong desire to establish peace with Mexico on liberal, which means generous, and honorable terms. Okay, so all we want is peace. The United States maintains a readiness of this government to regulate and adjust our boundary and other causes of difference with that power on such fair and equitable principles. Right, we're being the honest broker here. My desire to establish permanent relations of the most friendly nature induced me in September last to seek the reopening of diplomatic relations between the two countries, right, U.S. and Mexico. To establish these friendly relations, an envoy of the United States repaired or went to Mexico with full powers to adjust every existing difference between us, right? We extended a friendly hand, but the Mexican government not only refused to receive him or listen to his propositions, but after a long continued series of menaces, have at last invaded our territory and shed the blood of fellow citizens on our own soil. Our forbearance has gone to such an extreme as to be mistaken in its character, meaning that I believe it means mistaken for weakness, and that's why they attacked us, right? So we've been so patient, they thought we're weak, right? They thought we're suckers. The cup of forbearance has been exhausted. Mexico has passed the boundary of the United States, has invaded our territory, and shed American blood upon the American soil. Right? All right. So, as a whole, how does this come across? Right? It comes across that, oh, wait, what the hell was that? Okay. It comes across that we are the innocent victims, generous and peace loving. And in return for our kindness, right, the treacherous Mexicans invaded the United States and killed Americans on our own soil, right? They invaded us. Plus, they had been screwing us for a long time. I mean, that's what Polk said. Long, unredressed stuff, right? It's enough to make you crazy angry and vengeful. And that's exactly how Congress responded, right? That day, very same day, the House voted 173 to 14. That's damn near perfect. Voted for war. Then, yeah, the next day, the Senate voted 42-2. That's damn near perfect too for war. It reminds you of the Gulf of Tonkin. Remember the Gulf of Tonkin? You get 100% of congressmen and all but two senators, right? Right? It's that perfect. Right? Now, remember from the Gulf of Tonkin, all those representatives and senators, they're all manipulated. They're all fooled except for two senators, right? So we'll see whether or not the same applied here, right? People are like, oh, you can't fool me. I'm too clever. I'm too smart. You can't trick me. All right, so Polk's justification for war boils down to these three things, right? If you look at what he says here, right, you boil it down. One, Mexico attacked Americans on American soil. Mexico refused to receive the American envoy Slidell. His name was John Slidell, yeah, which was our peace offering, right? We sent them down in good faith. We sent them down there, and they refused them, right? Mexico refused to pay for all the harm and damage they caused Americans over so many years, right? And that's what he says. I'll show you. Long continued unredressed wrongs, right? Over many years. So with this, Polk got his war through which he acquired, again, all this territory. All right. This part of the United States. That's a big chunk, right? All right. All right, my contention, Polk. So this is my contention. I'll tell you right up front, right? And you may be shocked. You may think, oh, bullshit, right? But I'm going to tell you right up front. And we'll see at the very end. We'll see if I'm right. Polk wanted to take from Mexico, all this land, especially California. Right? I mean, that's what he said in his October 45 diary note, right? Right? Why California? Because that means Pacific Ocean ports. That means trade with Asia, right? And that means that's going to mean big money. What the hell? What's this doing? I'm going to get rid of this. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So, where are we at? All right. Now, to get this land from Mexico, Mexico's not going to give it to us. Mexico's not going to sell it to us, right? So we got to take it. Now, to take it, you have to have a war, right? So to start a war, Polk had a three-pronged strategy. One, you provoke Mexico into attacking Mexican forces. If you can't do that, well, then you can't get that, right? You can't count on that. But you send an American envoy, Slidell, to Mexico under conditions that are set up to ensure he will not be received, all right, by Mexico. And then you use Mexico's rejection as a cause for war, fait accompli, right? So that's a fait accompli. You set it up so it's meant to be, it's going to be rejected. And when it's rejected, you say, whoop, we tried to be, to reason with you, right? And you force us to resort to war, right? And then you demand Mexico pay reparations, and then you use a refusal. When they refuse to pay, you use that as a cause for war, right? Okay, so those are his three angles, right? Now, Polk wasn't certain that he would get a Mexican. When you read all the documents, it's clear that he's not sure if there's going to be an attack, right? But 9 times he said that he would ask for war solely upon the rejection of Slidell. 9 times he's on record saying, I should say that, right? Because, a couple of times he said, okay, Polk said, someone said Polk said, right? All right. Uh, so here's my outline that I'm going to go through. There's basically three sections. The first section, I'm going to establish the American motive for taking Mexico and show you a whole long pattern of behavior, a whole long history of Americans trying to cut up and take pieces, of Mexico. All right. Then I'll explain the Slidell fait accompli, right? Used to manufacture a casus belli, which is cause for war or justification for war. Right? Finally, I'll explain how the Polk administration provoked the Mexican attack with 5 acts of war and possibly 6. One you can say, well, maybe even 6, right? But definitely 5, right? So here's the American motive for taking Mexican land, shown in a long pattern of stealing Mexican land, right? And the first case goes way back to 1800 with this guy here, Philip Nolan, right? And he conducted what's called a filibuster invasion to seize Texas territory. Now, when you hear the word filibuster, if you kind of know it at all, it tends to mean, a congressional, a legislative ploy in which you keep talking to stall, right? You stall a vote or something like that, right? In the floor. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Oh shoot. All right, but a filibuster is a private military operation. So instead of having the government, U.S. Army or whatever, it's a private. You make a private army. You get financing for it. You outfit it, get weapons. Maybe they bring their own weapons or you get weapons, but it's all privately financed, right? I tell you, my feet are killing me. My feet are just absolutely killing me. Uh, Goodness sakes. Oh man. Um, filibuster invasion against nations which the United States were at peace was a violation of the 1794 Neutrality Act. But in all the following filibuster invasions and revolts, the act was not enforced. Uh, Usually they gave a wink and a nod encouragement, right? They knew that these are Americans. They knew that this meant Americans going to grab some territory and will probably annex it later, right? So they didn't apply this act, right? And all the ones that I'll show you. I'm gonna take a break here. I gotta go somewhere else because my feet are killing me. Okay, I'm back here. Uh, yeah, we're talking about let's see here. Philip Nolan filibuster, right? First one. Uh, Private army invading a foreign country and to prevent problems, starting wars with the United States by American citizens, right? They had the 1794 Neutrality Act, which made that illegal for private military force to go in a foreign country and create trouble that can get the United States involved in the war. But they usually gave just a wink and a nod, and they didn't really enforce this. All right. So in 1803, we had the Louisiana Purchase. Uh, and what it did, it eliminated the French buffer zone between the United States territory and New Spain. That's the Spanish colonies in the Americas, right? And that increased illegal immigration into the Texas territory, American immigration into the Texas territory. So let me kind of show you that. So this is the Louisiana territory here, right? It was French territory. It's a buffer between the United States and this is Spain, New Spain here, right? Right. And once we bought this, then Americans started flooding into this territory because it's United States territory, right? And that brought them closer to the border, so they increased the flood into Texas. All right, does that make sense? Right. And then let's see here, and then in 1809, 11, there's a jailbreak from the Spain's American colonies. All right, a whole bunch of revolutionary wars, and beginning in 1809, you had Ecuador go, then you had Bolivia go, then you had Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, and Argentina go in 1810. Then you had Paraguay go in 1811. All right, so they're all breaking away. Spain's got its hands full, It's got revolutionary wars throughout. They're trying to fight this, right? So Spain is weak. Spain in the Americas is weak. Also, in top of that, they're getting their butts kicked by Napoleon. You know, uh, Napoleon has invaded Spain, so they're very weak. Now, because of that, because of their weakness fighting revolutions and also getting beat by Napoleon in their own country, Napoleon's invaded Spain, right? The U.S. took the opportunity to seize West Florida. Right now, we typically think of Florida here. You got the Panhandle, but West Florida was everything up to the Mississippi River, right? So West Florida is a strip along the coast between the Mississippi and the Perdido River, yeah, Perdido, right? Perdido, whatever. We're right about here, which is the current boundary between Alabama and Florida, right? All right, then 2 years later we annexed it. This is ours, right? In the same year we gave statehood to Louisiana. Now this is the Louisiana Purchase Territory, right? But we took a little bit extra, right? We wanted to get it up to the Pearl River here. This is the Pearl River, so this is Louisiana today. It kind of looks like a foot, with a big stub toe there, right? And so yeah, we took a little bit extra here, right? And we gave them statehood in 1812, and then a few years later, 1817, we gave Mississippi statehood with that territory we took here. Then we gave Alabama statehood in 1819, right? But in the meantime, we had the Adams-Onis Treaty. All right, let's see here. I got this all. Oh, okay, one more thing here. So, yeah. All right, so with Spain weakened, right, that, fighting revolutions, that increased illegal American immigration into the Texas territory. So more people are flooding in, more Americans, right? They're weak. They can do nothing about it, right? They're barely fighting to hang on. And then also it encouraged, the weakness encouraged another filibuster called the Gutierrez Maggie filibuster. These two guys got together and led this private army invasion into Texas. Americans trying to take Mexican Texas territory, and they declared the independent state of Texas. Right, another invasion. Right, and then you have what's called the 1819 Adams-Onis Treaty, which formalized U.S. American conquest of Florida and the southern coast of the United States up to the Mississippi. So all this was Spain's, right? We took this, but then with the Adams-Onis Treaty, we got all this, right? And let me give you a little bit of background and how this came about, right? So again, 1810, Mexico declares revolution. They declare independence, and they're fighting Spain. So there's a big fight here in Mexico territory. This is all Mexico. Right, down here through Mexico, that's Mexico, right? And Spain is weak and easy pickings, so we say, okay, we're going to take this from you, right? What are you going to do about it, right? You're busy fighting the Mexican rebels over here, right? So we just seize West Florida, and then we annex it a couple of years later. Then we give Louisiana statehood, taking some of the Spanish territory, this little chunk here, say, this is ours too. We want access all the way up to the Pearl River. Why? Well, that means that's mass bulk transportation. That opens up commercial production of this territory, of this land here. So let's see here. Where are we at here? Okay. Okay. And then U.S. occupies Mobile. Mobile, Alabama is a fine little port right there. And then U.S. forces kick out the British from Pensacola. Pensacola is just on the east side of the Perdido River, right about there, right? And then U.S. invades in 1816. U.S. invades East Florida. This is East Florida, and the pretext for invading it was that it became a haven for runaway black slaves. Right, slaves would escape and run down here. This is not U.S. territory, so they're free and they stay down here. And they occupied a fort called the Negro Fort, I think it was called. Right, and also they said the Indians were causing them trouble, or all the Indians were kicked off their land here, and they're forced into Florida. And the main reason was this is more a pretext for seizing Florida. All right, one step closer to taking Florida to ourselves. Right. So basically, we have military invasion of Florida here. And then in 1819, basically, Spain saw that this is a lost cause. They lost this territory. So they said, all right, we'll make a deal with you, right? You can have all this territory, and you give us this territory here. This is part of Louisiana. We'll make this the boundary. This is the Adams-Onis boundary, right? All right, so we get this chunk of the Louisiana Purchase territory. You get this, and then you pay up to $5 million in, Spanish claims, right? All right, so we're gonna pay him some money. All right. Then in 1819 to 1822, again, Spain is weak, right? You had the long filibuster. So this is the third private army expedition to steal some Texas territory, right? So they go in on 3 separate invasions, right? And then Americans again declared an independent Republic of Texas, right? Right? They're trying to break away a part of Texas and say it's theirs, right? This is the long guy here, right? Then Mexico gains its independence during this time, right? 1821, right? They got independence. So now we're dealing with Mexico. And then there's a revolt inside Mexico led by Americans. This guy led it, Hayden Edwards right here, called the Fredonian Revolt, right? In an attempt to break away from Mexico and form an independent republic of Fredonia. Right? It almost sounds like a cartoon thing. I don't know. West of Louisiana. So remember I said the Pearl River is the western border of Louisiana here, right? Well, here's the Pearl River, and this is Fredonia. All right, so it's a little chunk about here. They're saying, okay, this is our. We're trying to steal a chunk. Americans are trying to steal a chunk of Texas here, right? All right, then in 1827, the next year, John Quincy Adams offers Mexico $1 million to purchase Texas. Only 2 years later, Andrew Jackson, right, the big Indian fighter, he ups it to $5 million to buy Texas. Okay. And then in 1830, I say the real start of the Texas Revolution. They say the Texas Revolution was 1835, beginning in October, right? Well, no, not really. The real start of the revolution was in 1830, when the Mexican Congress passed their April 6, 1830 laws. There were 8 laws altogether in this law, and they're all designed to prevent the Texans from breaking away, right, declaring independence, and then being annexed to the United States. They saw it coming way back in 1830. They saw the writing on the wall, right? So they tried to pass this law to weaken them, right? And what they did is they said, okay, you can't have any slaves, right? The rest of the country, Mexico, since its existence in 1821, had a law against slaves. No slaves allowed. But they gave an exception for a couple years anyways, to the Texas Americans, right? But then they said, well, it's going to run out. Your exemption is going to run out in 1830. And sure enough, this law comes in. You cannot have slaves anymore. Can't have these guys, right? And you got to pay taxes. So the law is the Americans are not paying taxes. You got to pay the taxes that everyone else is paying, right? And no more immigration from America, the U.S. It said something like, the Northeast border territory, but it meant America, right? So no more immigration from Americans because there's too many, right? And, you know, you go back to the original deal, it was only 300 families were allowed to come in, but Americans flooded in. That goes to Moses Austin, and then his son, what was his son, his name? Stephen Austin, all right? They both had a deal. Moses Austin had a deal with the Spanish government for it to bring in 300 families, right? 300 American families allowed. And then when Mexico took over, Stephen Austin, his son, had that same deal renewed with the Mexican government, right? 300 families. Man, the Americans are swarming into Texas, uncontrolled, and they're trying to stop that, right? So they had 8 laws altogether to try to prevent Texas going independent, right, and joining America, right? So all the laws were intended for that, right? Now, if an individual breaks the law, that's a crime, right? But if you have everyone in mass breaking the law, that's sedition, that's rebellion, right? That's like the South, right? Not wanting to pay. Well, the key reason for that, like one of the key reasons for the Southern secession was the moral tariff was going to go through. I'm not going to get into that now, but let's see here. So this is mass. It's rebellion. It's sedition. It's like the South breaking away, right? So I ask you, what if Mexicans did this to the United States today? What if Mexicans swarmed over the border uncontrolled, right? You see all these guys, right? Here's Fox News. You're all pissed off about this, right? Fox News should be saying, "Oh, that wall is great, right? Look at that. That wall is working." Now, what if the Mexicans swarmed over, right? Americans would be all crazy. And then what if the Mexicans brought slaves? And what if they refused to pay taxes? Oh, Americans would just go bonkers, right? Right? Hunt these guys down, and do whatever to these guys, right? Well, at least definitely throw them back, right? And then so what happened was they've been breaking this law. That's when the revolution started. That's revolt. That's rebellion. When you don't follow the nation's laws, right? And 2 years later, the Mexicans sent a force to enforce this, right? Well, this is when the armed rebellion began, because as soon as they sent the force in, the Texans jumped these guys and beat them, right? So the Mexicans were defeated, and the Texans continued to break the law, right? They're just trying to enforce the law. Well, that's not happening, right? We're not paying no taxes, right? We're keeping our slaves, and screw you, we're still coming. We're swarming into your country. All right. Now, then in June 1835, Mexico tried again to enforce the same laws. So really, this is when the Texas Revolution started. But really, it's about the same thing. The revolution started here. Why historians don't see that, I don't know. They make it as two separate things here, right? It's really the same thing. Part 2, right? We'll try again to get you guys to obey these laws. Right. So what's held as kind of the official start of the Texas Revolution was a Texan attack on a Mexican force when they tried to come and take away this cannon. Right. It's called the come and take it cannon. Right. And the incident happened on October 2nd of 35. Right. And what it was the Mexicans had given the Texans this cannon back when Spain was threatening to invade Mexico to try to take back, Texas, right? Right. And so this, where's my cursor? So they're like, okay, you defend yourself. Here's a cannon. You defend yourself, right? Right. And then when they come in, they're like, okay, we're gonna try to enforce this law, but they got this damn cannon, so. First thing we better do is try to get this back before we try, because they're just going to use it against us, and they're going to whack us, and we got to get this cannon. So when they tried to come back and get the cannon, the Texans attacked them, and that kicked off the second armed rebellion. Right? It really is all part of the same revolution starting in 1830. Right? Just a continuation. Now, Americans during this rebellion gave substantial military manpower, military support in terms of money, soldiers, and war materials, in violation of the 18 or 1794 Neutrality Act. But we didn't really enforce that. All right. So where did I go here? Okay, Mexicans were again defeated with General Santa Anna's capture. Okay, so war's over. When he's captured, here's General Santa Anna. When he's captured, war's over. Right? On 5/14/36, Santa Anna signs a Treaty of Velasco, ceding Texas up to the Rio Grande. Right? Okay, let's see if I got a map of that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, well, here's the Rio Grande. Okay, said, all this territory is yours up to the Rio Grande. All right. Okay. So now but the thing about it was he was not president at the time. All right. Coro was president, duly elected by the Mexican Congress. All right. So when Santa Anna went off to fight the war, he left the presidency to, I think it was Berenger or something like Berrigan, something like that, some guy, right? And he was elected by the Mexican Congress, but he died, right? When he died, the Mexican Congress elected Coro. Now that's their constitution, right? For example, our constitution specifies that the voters don't select the president. You have an electorate select the president, right? And there's a lot of democracies in their constitution. They have the Congress votes for the president, right? Right, and that was the case with Mexico, right? So they elected him. He's president, not Santa Anna. All right, and okay. So he's president. He's not president. Coral's president, right? And then Santa Anna, while he's in prison, was threatened with death, threatened with lynch mobs, clamoring outside his his prison cell, and there were even pistol shots fired at his prison door. All right. All right, now there's a principle in law called the duress principle in contract law, where contracts are null and void if they're forced under duress, right? So you can say it's illegal. His release was contingent upon his signing the treaty. It's like you're not getting out of prison until you sign this, right? That's what the treaty literally said. I mean, it didn't say that, but that's what it meant. It says, okay, upon signing this, you'll get sent to Veracruz. What that meant is you're not leaving prison until you sign this, right? That's the real effect of that. Then on May 20th of 36, the Mexican government disavowed all acts by Santa Anna, right? I mean, why not? He's not even president, right? And then the Mexican Congress did not ratify the treaty, right? So it was never made into law, right? So even if Santa Anna was president, which he was not, this treaty was both illegal in multiple ways and not legal, not made legal, right? Because it was never ratified, right? That's how our Constitution works the same way, right? President can make a treaty, but it's got to be ratified by the Senate. I think, what is it? I think is it 2/3? Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be ratified by the Senate. All right. So I say it's worth less than toilet paper, right? It's garbage, right? You don't even, it's not worth wiping your butt with this thing, right? Okay. So I say is you don't leave the government headless when when he runs off to fight a war, you don't leave the government back in Mexico City headless, right? Right? So you transfer power, and you don't have two presidents. That's chaos too, right? Headless government is chaos. Two presidents, chaos. He's not president. Coral's president, right? Okay, so I say this. What if Mexicans today, right, They flooded over the border. They flooded over the wall, right? Which they could probably just dig a tunnel under the wall, right? That wall's worth the money, right? And they declare an independent country. They flood into California and they say, "Hey, California is now ours," right? We'll call it Tequila Land, right? Tequila, right? And then what Americans going to do? They're going to go crazy, say it's illegal, want to kill them, literally. Give me a gun, we'll go fight these guys. They would. And they want to kill as many as they can, right? But if Americans flood into Mexico and declare independence, well, that's patriotic and glorious. And our legal right not to follow the law. We have legal right not to follow law because we're Americans, right? That is not sedition. It's independence, right? I mean, it's sedition, right? And is sedition legal in the United States, or is it punishable by death, right? I say just watch the liars try to twist this here, right? Right? In reality, the Texans were scumbags, flooding into Mexico against the law, not following the laws, not paying taxes, bringing in slaves against the law, right? Then they say, "Hey, we're going to do our own thing. We're not following. We're going independent," right? That happened in America, Americans would go crazy. So I say this is an example of biased distortions of perceptions, right? Which is all too common. People bias the crap of the way they see things to fit the way they want to see it, right? So if Mexicans today flooded into California and declared Tequila Land on one hand here, and what happened it was that the Texans flooded into Mexican territory and declared the independent Republic of Texas, right? If the Mexicans do it, well, that's illegal. If the Americans do it, it's our right to do, right? Mexicans do it, flood into California, right? That's sedition, that's overthrow. If Americans flood into Texas, it's independence, right? Something to be celebrated, right? If Mexicans do it, well, they're traitors, they're villains, right? If Texans do it, they're patriots, right? If Mexicans, they're criminal lawbreakers, right? But if Americans flood into Texas and do it, they're champions of freedom. I'm serious, right? That's how they'll spin it that way, right? Mexicans do it to us, their subversive treachery. We do it to Mexico, that's glorious patriotism. They're patriots, they're heroes, right? If Mexicans flood into California and take it, we'll execute them all. If Americans, flood into Texas, take it from Mexico, make a statue for them. Put it in the center of the town square, right? Erect a statue. Have a celebration once a year, right? I'm kind of, I had a joke. It kind of reminds me of a movie. Yeah, here, Slapshot, right here, right? There's a movie called Slapshot. It's a movie about hockey, right? Semi-pro hockey team called the Chiefs, right? And the star of the movie is Paul Newman, and he plays a guy named Reg Dunlop, who is a player coach of the team. So he coaches them, but he's also a player, right? And on this team, they just get these 3 new players from Canada, the Canadian Iron League, right? And they're called the Hanson brothers. 3 brothers, and they all wear these geeky black glasses, black horn rimmed glasses with white tape in the middle, and they're goons. All they do is fight and beat up people and do crazy stuff, right? And there's a game, right? There's a game in which the Hansons all form one line. They all go in together, and they're in, and it's an away game. And there was a fan for the other team that's in the crowd. He's just screaming at the Hanson brothers. All he's upset at these, "Hey, Hanson brothers, you guys suck. You can't play hockey. You guys can't skate." Blah blah blah. He's going on and on, right? And he's really all pissed off. And then he reaches into his pants pockets, pulls out his car keys, throws them, right, and nails one of the Hanson brothers in the face, knocks off his glasses. So he looks up at the stands. Hey, where'd that come from? And he's squinting because he can't see, right? He climbs over the plexiglass, right? Climbs into the stands, grabs a guy who he thinks who threw it, right? Starts beating the crap out of him, and then his brothers say, "Oh no, it's the guy over there." So he goes over to this other guy and starts beating the crap out of him, right? Punch him in the head. No, it's a guy over there, over to the left, right? And he goes over to, after a few guys, he finally gets the right guy. He's beating the crap out of him, right? And then after the game, they won the game, right? And they're in the locker room. They're all sitting on the benches, taking off their skates and stuff, right? And then there's a big bang on the door, a big knock, bam, 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 right? So one of the players, the guy named Ned Braden, right? He goes over to the door, opens it up, right? And there's a bunch of cops outside, right? It's in the dark, right? It's outside, right? And they say the Hanson brothers, right? Right? And so Ned Braden closes the door, goes back, and hey, there's a bunch of cops here. They're here to arrest the Hanson brothers. So another guy jokes, "Yeah, okay, so this is what's going to happen, guys. They're going to arrest you, put you in jail, right? Then they're going to give you a dime, and you get to make one call." And the Hanson brothers like, "Oh yeah, we'll call the pizza man, right? No, we'll call him the sound caller, right?" They're being a bunch of idiots. They're kind of goofy. And then so Paul Newman says, "Right, all right, guys, I'll take care of these guys. I'll put them in their place, right?" He goes outside, closes the door behind him, and he goes, "I throw up my hands, guys. I don't know what to do with them. I can't control them, right? Uh, I don't know what to say." And then he comes back in. I told them, yeah. And then the next scene it switches over to the police station, right? And Paul Newman's standing at the desk sergeant's little podium, whatever thing they stand behind, and he's arguing with the desk sergeant. He goes, "You can't keep these guys in jail. They're folk heroes, for God's sake." And the desk sergeant says, "Folk heroes, my ass. They're criminals, right?" And Paul Newman says, well, yeah, but most folk heroes started off as criminals. So, I mean, that's what it's like, right? Criminals are folk heroes and they're on your side, right? And I say this, I mean, where's my thing? I talk about patriotic people here. I mean, so many Americans are patriotic, but I really cannot stand patriotic people, right? Patriotic people think it's good to be patriotic, right? Right? And I was super patriotic when I was a kid, right? But that's when I was a kid, right? And it was all self-serving, I mean, I grew out of that. I learned, about what's really fair and just, is more important. What's honest, right? All right, so I say they're egocentric, which they are. They're narcissistic. They're driven by the id, the things that just you're in an impulse. They're self-serving. They're self-deluding liars who do not care about honesty, justice, or fairness. Right? They say they will, but they don't really. Right? It's all about them and what they want to believe. Right? It's all about me, 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 me. That's what this is about. Makes me sick. Right? They are pathetic and ignoble, and I say idios. That's a Greek word that means a common man, right? It's where you get the word idiot from. Like back then, the idea was the average person was an idiot, right? But it also means the average person is ignoble, right? The average person is, morally corrupt, just puts himself, they're not going to do what's right. They're going to cut corners, right? And they're going to serve their own interest. Put that first. They don't sacrifice, right, for what is just and honest. They're going to put whatever makes them feel good first, right? And they're going to see things the way they want to see it. That's what people do, right? That's human nature. All right, 1837, U.S. recognizes Texas as independent, right? So they go independent. We're independent, and we give Texas independent recognition, right? And that is both injury to Mexico, but it's also a step towards annexation. Because if we recognize them as independent, then we can annex them by treaty with them. Right? Make an agreement, which happened in 1840. They agreed to it in, was it October 13th of 45? Right? But we annexed it on December 29th of 45. You'll see what happens. All right. Now, a few years later, in 1842, there's a premature attempt to seize California. This guy here was Thomas Gatsby Jones. Doesn't that look like Gatsby, like the Great Gatsby? Anyways, he was a U.S. Navy Pacific Squadron commander, and he received erroneous word that a war started with Mexico and that the British ship HMS Dublin intended to land and seize California, so he seized it first. He captured the capital city, Monterey, which would, take control of California, right? Okay. So yeah, he made it. That shows intent. All this shows intent that we want to take Texas and more. You know. All right. Now then, there's 3 survey expeditions from 42 to 45. All right. All right. Here's the first. This was really finding a route through the Rockies, and I guess that's the Tetons there, right? Is that a Rocky? Yeah, that's a Rockies. That's a Rockies. Tetons. I don't know what the hell these are up here, right? What do you call those? I don't know what mountains are. Or maybe these are Tetons. No, these are Tetons. I don't know. All right. So it's to find a route, to Oregon, right? So that's the first one. Second one was very, extensive. Went through all this territory, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, right? Almost up to Washington State. This is Oregon territory here, right? Down to Nevada, into California, right? And cutting across Arizona into Utah. So we're checking all this out, right? We're mapping all this out. And then the third one was primarily going into California. It also discovered a route up to Oregon this way, right? And it mapped out, San Francisco Bay Area, right? Okay. Yeah. Right. So now here's the thing. Whenever you conduct these surveys, all right, these survey mapping expeditions, you're not doing this to be nice to Mexico. Hey, we checked out your land for you, surveyed it. We'll give you all the maps for free, or we'll sell you the maps. All right. You can use them in your classrooms when you teach your kids, geography, right? Oh, hell no. You do this when you're getting ready to take that land. Every time we took Indian land, we surveyed it first. Right? You send out survey teams, especially if you're going to build a railroad. Right? For example, when they're building the Northern Pacific Railroad through, where's it going through? Was it going through Montana? Oh yeah, Montana, up here. No, Wyoming. I can't remember. I can't remember where. I think it went through South Dakota, Wyoming, or maybe was it Montana? It went through. I don't know. Anyways, so when they're going, the first thing to go across, the first thing they send in is a survey team, right? That's when you're getting ready to take that land. We kill a bunch of Indians and take the land. All right. Okay. So in 1844, Polk right here. That's President Polk, right? He is campaigning for presidency, right? And his platform is expansionist, right? He called it, his slogans were reannexation of Texas and 54-40 fight, right? So the reannexation of Texas is based upon the false belief that the Louisiana Purchase included Texas. There's no truth to that. But that's one of the things that was, popularly believed. He's pushing it, right? We'll take it back. Why? It's not we're going to take it. We'll take it back. So people are pissed off and think we deserve it, right? We didn't deserve it, right? But that's the angle they're taking. And then 54-40 fight was, we're going to take all of the Oregon Territory up to Russian Alaska, right? Take all that coastal area. Give nothing to Canada. All right. Okay. So then the president at the time, Polk was elected in November, but then the president up until March 4th was Tyler still, this guy here, right? And the last thing he did was he signed a joint congressional resolution, both chambers, right, to annex Texas, right? So this is a threat to Mexico to annex Texas, right? And then Polk on March 4th, 3 days later, is inaugurated. He gives his inaugural address, and he declares he's going to take Texas and Oregon. He flat out states, "I'm taking Texas. I'm taking Oregon." Right? You can read his inaugural speech. Right? And then a few days later, he sends Texas an offer for annexation on March 10th, right? So we're going to get ready. We're getting ready to take it. Then, before they accept the offer, right? Polk sends Marcy, Polk through Marcy orders General Taylor to invade Mexico's Texas. All right, so here is Mexico's Texas. They have everything up to California over here. You know, Nevada, California, right? Utah, Nevada, right? Colorado, right? They have all that. And so he said, invade this, right? And he says, protect it up to the Rio Grande, right? Invade. So this is an invasion of Mexico's Texas, right? You know, people are going to say, oh no, the Treaty of Glasgow was legitimate, so it was independent. No, it wasn't. That treaty, I told you, it's worth less than toilet paper. It's a joke, right? Only a liar would say it's a valid treaty. Okay, so you take, he says, and he says, make sure you take positions west of the Nueces River with at least part of your force. So here is American populated Texas. This is where Americans are at. There's like very few of no Americans out here, right? But he says, send some forces over here. But you're going to protect all this up to the Rio Grande, he says, right? Then, about 3 weeks later, he sends another message. Secretary of War Marcy, again, orders General Taylor, says, hey, consider any considerable force of Mexican army crossing over the Rio Grande into this territory as an invasion of the United States and the commencement of hostilities, right? You invade, that's invading the United States and hostilities, right? Invading foreign territory is an act of war, right? And it says drive them out, drive them to the other side. He said repel them, which means drive them back to the other side. But he says it over here. So let's see what he says. So just a week later, he sends another message, and he informs Taylor that the Mexican army has assembled at Matamoros down here, right? See that Matamoros? It's right across from the Rio Grande, just south of it. So that is where the Mexican army is garrisoned, okay? And he said that's where they're at now. And he says that crossing of Rio Grande with a considerable force will be regarded by the president, by the executive president here, as an invasion of the United States and the commencement of hostilities, right? For which, quote, you will employ all your forces to repulse invader and drive all Mexican troops beyond the Rio Grande. Drive back to the south, right? We're saying this is our land now. From sea to shining sea. All right. Now, on September 10th, Polk writes in his diary that he discusses in his diary purchasing California and New Mexico for 15 or 20 million, but up to 40 million. Right. So now when it says California, it was California territory, which is really California and kind of Nevada here, and the New Mexico territory was kind of all this: Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, right? Maybe a little bit of Colorado there. That was considered the New Mexico territory. So he wants to buy all this, basically, right? Right. And so he's talking about that, right? That was never put into action, though, right? The war was put into action. Then on October 13th, Texas accepts Polk's offer for annexation, and on the same day, the Slidell fait accompli ploy is set up, right? So Slidell is being sent to Mexico under terms which are certain to be rejected in order to manufacture a trumped-up justification for war. When they reject them, they'll say, see, right? They rejected our good peace offering, right? You know, good faith, right? That requires war. All right. Now, 9 times Polk is on record saying it. The fait accompli will be examined in detail later. I'll get to it. So why was the Slidell mission set up on the 13th? I mean, is it coincidence? You know, I mean, people are going to say, well, you can't have them on the same day because communication lag. Well, you know what? You know, you pretty much know how negotiations are going and what people are saying as far as as far as accepting the annexation offer, right? So I don't know. I'm thinking they pretty much knew they're going to get annexation, right? And then they knew once they get at a Texas annexation offer, they could send Slidell down there. And when he's down there, trying to get received, with a promise of negotiating Texas, right? Hey, we'll negotiate everything. And then when he's down there, you pull the rug under their feet. You annex Texas, completely destroying any chance at receiving Slidell. Then you say, hey, you're not receiving Slidell, that means war, right? You see what I mean? It's not that complicated a thing. Why do historians not see this, right? All right. Now, I believe it's because Polk now knew he could annex Texas while Slidell was down in Mexico, right? Did I find this in a document? He admitted this? No, right? But come on, right? Uh, when Slidell is down there trying to get received by Mexico, right? Attempt to be seen with only a demand that Mexico, all right? He only demands that Mexico pay reparations. They're not gonna. Mexico says, hey, we got to talk about Texas. You send him down there and say you got to pay us money, right? And that would ensure Slidell's rejection. I'll show you how it's all set up, right? I'll explain it better in a second here. That would ensure Slidell's rejection, giving Polk his justification for war, right? So then Polk makes a diary entry on October 24th, a little bit later, where he expresses fear that Britain will seize California, and he also expresses his desire for California. He said the fine bay of San Francisco, right? Again, why San Francisco? That's a good port. That good port means trade with Asia. That means big money, right? Okay, 12/29/45, Polk signs the bill for annexation of Texas. So while Slidell's down there trying to get received and supposedly to negotiate Texas, we take all Texas. There's no negotiation, right? At this point, there's no discussion. We say it's ours, right? And not only do we annex it, we give it immediate statehood. It is a state in the union. No turning back. You want it? You start a war with us. That's what that means, right? It's ours, right? No discussion, right? So that's a sucker move there. Now, there is zero chance for border negotiations, which would only ensure Slidell's rejection, which until May 8th, that's when the word of the April 25th attack came, right? So up until this point, when they got word of the attack, the only justification for war was Slidell's rejection, right? So that was Polk's sole pretext for war, and he intended to request authorization for war from Congress based only upon that. 9 times he's on record saying, right, he's going to request war only for Slidell's rejection by the Mexican government, right? And he's being sent down there on their terms where he's unavoidably going to be rejected. I'll show you in detail more once we get there. So Polk used the Slidell rejection as one of 2 key justifications for war. Right? So they're manufacturing a war here. I don't know if you can understand this. All right, so President Polk orders January 13th. This is the order that Amy Greenberg lied about, right? Pissed me off, right? President Polk orders General Taylor's army to march to the Rio Grande River, suggesting going next to Matamoros, right, among other places. He said Bravo Santiago or Point Isabel, right? That's near Bravo Santiago. All right, so he recommended like 3 different places, one of which was Matamoros. But that Matamoros is where Taylor went to, and that's where the Mexican army was garrisoned there. All right. Remember, on 8:30, that's when Marcy informed Taylor that's where they're at. So that's where Taylor went to. Okay, so the next thing we'll cover the military actions that led to the Mexican attack, a series of provocations that led to the attack. We'll cover that last. But the next section we'll examine is Slidell's subterfuge. That's what I call it. How you set this up, right? So review Polk's justifications for wars. Remember, I said it boils down to Mexico attacked Americans on American soil. That's what he said. Mexico refused to receive the American envoy Slidell, who was sent as a peace offering, to negotiate honestly and fairly, with all patience. Mexico refused to pay for all the harm and damage they caused Americans over so many years. Now, that boils down to Polk's justification for war. Right? So here's a quick summary of the generally believed purpose of the Slidell mission. I mean, you get this in history books. So he was sent to establish friendly relations with Mexico, right? He was sent to negotiate the Texas border, right? These are both Polk's speech, right? Now, Mexico didn't want to just talk about the border. They want to talk about the whole Texas situation. This is how we framed it, right? The way we spun it, right? It's about negotiating. No, it's about all of Texas. It's about our annexation of Texas. It's about our threat to annex Texas. It's about the revolutions by Americans in Texas, right? And, it's generally stated by history books that he went down there with an offer to purchase California and New Mexico territories for $25 million, right? Often it's stated California only, right? And it's not stated California territory, right? I showed you the real picture. It was about buying California territory and New Mexico territories, which are bigger, right? It's all that territory, basically. Demand Mexico pay reparations for a long history of abuse and damage to American lives and property, right? Okay, so these are generally believed to be the purpose of Slidell's missions, right? I say it's complete and utter bullshit, right? And I'll show you why, right? So I say Slidell's real mission, though he himself did not know it when he went down there at first, but he realized it after a while, was to be sent to Mexico in such a limited capacity that he was sure to be rejected, and then his rejection would be used to justify a war, especially in the event that they failed, the Polk administration failed to provoke Mexico into attacking, right? So without an attack, they're going to have to fall back only on his rejection. In fact, 9 times Polk is on record saying that he would ask Congress for war against Mexico based solely upon the rejection of Slidell, right? Now I say liars are going to attack this. I'll show you all 9 times here. All right, here's the dates. Here's number 1, number 2. This is what he said, right? And liars are going to attack this because in not all cases, right, did he say war, right? For example, it says here, redress into our own hands by aggressive measures, right? Right? Well, what's aggressive measures, right? We're going to ask Congress, right, to confer authority on the executive to take redress unto our own, right? So, hey, Congress, can we, set up an arm wrestling? That's more aggressive, right? Winner take all, right? Or rock, paper, scissors, right? That's 2 out of 3 or whatever, right? No, this means war, right? And it openly says war here, result in war, resorting to hostilities, that means war. And finally, on April 25th, he said, I recommend a declaration of war, right? And then Buchanan concurred, right? And then the cabinet members did not dissent, but concurred, right? This is Polk's diary of a meeting where he says, I'm going to recommend a declaration of war if Slidell is not seen, based only on Slidell. All this is based only on Slidell being rejected. So 9 times he's on record saying that he's going to ask Congress for war if Slidell is not received. And then they're going to send him down there under conditions which are sure to get him rejected. All right, so I say, in short, Slidell was being set up for a fait accompli, right, to manufacture a casus belli. Right, that's a justification for war, right? These are 2 classic diplomatic terms. These are ancient maneuvers that, I know the Europeans were doing going way back in their wars, right? Trying to manufacture a fait accompli to get a casus belli, right? To manufacture a war. So this is kind of old school method, More modern methods are to manufacture a dramatic event, to manufacture an incident which will get the public all riled up, right? Like demanding war. Now, on March 12th of 46, Secretary of State Buchanan wrote to Slidell. So this is another example, but this is Slidell. He said, on your return to the United States, energetic measures against Mexico. Now, what does that mean? That means war. That's code for war also. Against Mexico would at once be recommended by the president, and these might fail to obtain the support of Congress if it could be asserted that the existing government had not refused to receive our minister. Now, this is all ass backwards, right? All like double, triple, quadruple negatives, right? It's negative, negative, negative upon negative. It's right? You wonder, like, how did Buchanan become our president, right? So this, but anyways, this shows that the Polk administration wants war, right? So they're trying to get war here, right? At requesting war, and the Polk administration was seeking war long before the April 25th. This is long before the April 25th Mexican attack, right? Going back here, February 17th earliest, right? And this is March 12th, okay? That I have on record. They're saying you're going to get war for Slidell's rejection, right? So the Polk administration is seeking war long before the April 25th Mexican attack on the 63 U.S. soldiers, in which 16 were either wounded or killed, right? I believe more were killed than wounded. I think like 10 were killed maybe, and 6 were wounded, something like that. But anyway, total 16 wounded and killed. Polk administration knows that in order to get Congress to approve the war, it has to be made obvious and clear that the Mexican government refused to receive our minister. So all this double, triple, quadruple negative stuff here, that boils down to, we got to show Congress that they refuse to receive our minister. Then based on that, we'll justify war, right? All right, so here's some immediate background to the Slidell mission. All right. Several conventions were held for Americans to submit claims against the Mexican government for property damage. All right. Now, I'm going to tell you honestly, I have not studied these claims. All right. I just see the overall lists. Right. That was in a Slidell document, a letter to Pena, their foreign minister. Right. Say, hey, this is what we demand. You pay. Right. Here's the basis of it. He lists a bunch of numbers, and then when it adds up, it doesn't even add up to all the numbers. Right. It's like, what? Right? It adds up to like 12 million, right? But then they're only asking like 8.9 million or something like that. Something crazy, right? Oh yeah, 8.449 million they're asking, right? 8.49 million, right? And right. So the thing about it is, well, think about these conventions, right? Much of this damage was incurred in Revolutionary Wars that Americans started. 1832, 1835. And I'll give you an example. One of the examples I read was one of the claims were, right, like ranchers were saying, hey, right, when the Mexican army came up here to fight the revolution, Texans were revolting. When they came up here, they killed a bunch of my cows and ate them, right? You got to pay for that, right? Right. Okay. I mean, yeah. But who started the war? Americans did, right? Now, I'm not saying there's not legitimate claims, but I'm tell you what. Think about this. Just kind of think about this. Americans, give open here. Hey, all right, we got open conventions. Anyone who's got a claim against Mexico, come in, submit it. Right? We'll put it on a list and we'll put it before the Mexicans. Right? What are a lot of Americans going to do? Right? Even if they don't have a legitimate claim, or there's like a real sketchy claim, they're going to say, oh, what the hell? What does it hurt? Right? Maybe I'll get a chance to get some free money. And then what are they going to do? They're going to jack up the value of it, right? Try to squeeze as much as they can. They're going to do this. That everyone and their second cousin is going to put in some bogus claim if they can, right? Right? Anyways, I'm not saying they're all bogus, right? I don't know. I admit, I didn't study these, right? Right? But if you look at this number is twice as much, almost twice as much as Andrew Jackson offered to buy all of Texas for, right? And here's another thing. Who's got the bigger claims? I mean, Americans invade 3 times, start 3 revolutions in their country 3 times, right? Who do you think has got bigger claims for damage, right? All right, so that's, I'm going to admit that I'm not, very well researched on this. I haven't, found the documents, But, just think about it logically, right? You got to know that a lot of these claims are just spurious, maybe totally bogus, definitely exaggerated, pumping up the right, the monetary amount. All right. All right. That's all I'm going to say in there because I admit I don't know enough there, right? But okay, so there's several, that's a background. They held these conventions, say, you owe us this money, right? The Mexican government feels itself the injured party and wants reparations. I'm sorry. Wants reparations. And do they have good cause, right? Well, here's a short list of American offenses, right? 3 filibuster invasions into Mexico, or Spain, Mexico, to take Texas territory, right? Americans invaded them 3 times, and then 3 revolutions to take Texas territory, right? All started by Americans. 1826 Freedonium, 1832 tax revolt, then the Texas Revolution. We said that all this is the same revolution. They're not following the law, right? They're not paying their taxes. They're bringing the slaves. They're flooding into Texas uncontrolled against immigration restrictions, right? So these are all wars we started, right? Then we take Texas, but before that, let's review the Texas Revolution, right? Which really started in 1830, right? Why do historians not recognize this? I don't know, right? The Texans started the revolt because Mexico tried once again to force the rebels to follow the April 6, 1830 laws. Pay your taxes. No more slaves, right? And 5 more laws, right? Mexico had backed off. By this time, Mexico had backed off their no immigration from America law. I'm not sure why. Maybe they felt they had to give them a bone, right? Or something. Back off a little bit. I don't know. So then General Santa Anna was captured, and then he's forced to sign the Treaty of Lascaux, which set the border between Texas and Mexico at the Rio Grande. However, that treaty was a complete farce because, one, Santa Anna was not even president at the time. He was a general in command of the Mexican army in the field of battle. He didn't have time to be president, right? Cora was president, duly elected by the Mexican Congress, according to their constitution. Therefore, Santa Anna lacked the authority to make treaties. All right? Head of state makes treaties. Or the foreign minister, but with the authority of the head of state. Now, Santa Anna was imprisoned in shackles, and his life was threatened by mobs. They clamored outside his cell to lynch him. Right? These guys are fighting with the guards to lynch him, right? And they even fired pistol shots at the prison door. Now, I had a person argue with me, say, no, they weren't fired at the door, they were fired outside his door, right? I'm willing to bet this guy didn't read. I read Santa Anna's diary, right? This guy didn't read jack. He's just, well, what the hell? What's the difference? Outside his door, at the door, right? It's a threat, right? They fired him at his door, so this guy should just shut up. People try to find some wormy little excuse to deny, right? And then, duress principle. So okay. Remember, any contract signed under duress is invalid under the law, right? Right. You forced to sign this, right? And I give you an example. Let's say you own a house, right? Right. You worked your ass off all your life to save up money for a down payment. Now you're working your ass off to make your mortgage payments, right? And you go to sleep one night and you're snoring away, and then all of a sudden someone wakes you up. Like, I throw you out of bed onto the ground. I break into your house, throw you out of bed, toss you on the ground, put a gun to your head, says, sign this paper. It says you're signing title of your house over to me, right? Right? Sign it or die. Right? So you sign it, right? Then I take this piece of paper and I go to county whatever. Or I go before the judge with this. Hey, Your Honor, look at this piece of paper. This guy signed over his house to me. What do you think the judge is going to say? Well, let me take a look at that, right? Oh, yeah, it looks pretty good to me, right? No. He's going to laugh in your face and then throw you in jail, right? Right? This thing's worthless, right? It's not even worth toilet paper, right? Right? You don't even want to wipe your butt with this thing. It's so worthless. All right. So then Article 10 of the treaty stipulated that upon signing the treaty, then Santa Anna would be sent to Veracruz. That's what it said. Okay, you sign this thing, you'll be sent to Veracruz, right? Right. Article 10. What that means is you're not leaving until you sign this thing. Right? I mean, it's not saying that, but that's what it means. You're not getting the hell out of here until you sign this. You're not getting out of prison until you sign this thing. This means Santa Anna would not be freed until he signed the treaty. And then on May 20th of 36, the Mexican government disavowed all acts taken by the imprisoned General Santa Anna. Right? Right? I mean, why not? He's not even president. Right? So then the Mexican Congress did not ratify the treaty, which means it was never made into law. To become a law, it's got to be signed. It's got to be made by treaties have to be made by the head of state, and then ratified by the Congress, right, the legislative body. Right? That's how our Constitution works. That's how the Mexican Constitution works. So it was never made into law. So what I say is, even if Santa Anna was president, which he was not, the treaty was both illegal, right, because it's signed under duress, right? You're in prison. You're going to get killed, right? You're going to get killed, and you're not going to get out, right, until you sign this. Well, right? And I'm thinking this. I'm thinking Santa Anna's thinking, right? Oh man, these guys are about to kill me. I got to get out of here, right? I got to sign this thing, right? I'm not going to get out of here until I sign this, right? Right? They're thinking about killing me, right? And why were they all hot? Because Santa Anna massacred American soldiers at two places, at Goliad and Alamo. Goliad, he executed about 260, and Alamo, I don't know how many, maybe about as many, I don't know, maybe more, I don't know. But anyone who survived the Alamo battle, when they captured it, they're all executed, right? Hang them all, right? Now, does he have the legal right to do that? Does the U.S. have the legal right to execute anyone who commits sedition, rebellion in our country, tries to overthrow our country? Yeah, that's a law in the books, right? That's a law in the United States, whatever, statutes, whatever, right? So by his law, he has the right to execute. He executed. Now, did the Americans see it that way? No, they saw that as an atrocity, as a war crime. So they're hot to kill him, right? Right. And how much battery life I got left here? I got 49%. Okay. All right. So they're looking to kill him. All right. And he's probably figured, well, what the hell? I'll sign this thing. I'm not even president. What does it matter? It's not going to mean anything, right? Oh, but he signs it, and we grab that thing, right? He's president. He's not president, but we're saying it, right? We're waving around. See, we got, the Texans have all Texas up to the Rio Grande, right? Right. What do I say here? So the treaty was both illegal and never made legal. It's not even worth toilet paper. And I mentioned that beer commercial. I think I mentioned this, right? There's a commercial which late at night, these two guys, like, early 20s, where young guys, where, they go to the grocery store and all they're buying is beer and toilet paper, right? And the cashier rings it up, right? And they pull in their pockets, they get their money together, and they're short money. They don't have money, so they have a choice. They can only get the beer, or they can get the toilet paper. So they decide upon the beer. I mean, what's more important, right? And then as the girl's gonna bag the stuff, the beer, she says, paper or plastic? And they're like, paper, like grocery bag paper for toilet paper, so to speak, right? I mean, it's not even worth grocery bag toilet paper. Toilet paper that bad, right? It's that bad, right? And then another example is the Seinfeld episode where Elaine is in the bathroom and there's no toilet paper, and she asks the girl in the stall next to her if she can borrow, right? And the girl's like, I can't spare a square, not a square to spare, right? And Elaine's like, wait a minute, wait. I mean, it's 2-ply, right? How about 1-ply? Just give me half a sheet, right? Half a square, 1-ply, one measly ply, right? And she's like, I can't, right? And that's what it's like. It's not even worth 1-ply of 1 square. This is crap, right? But I know the liars are going to come up with some BS here to attack, Right? Oh, it was legal according to this principle, or whatever. As far as I say, it's legal, right? So based upon the Treaty of Glasgow, which is not worth one ply of toilet paper, right? One ply, one square, the U.S. Congress passed a joint resolution to annex Texas, which is signed by President Tyler, right, on March 1st of 45. Now the U.S. openly threatens to steal Texas from Mexico, right? So this is a threat. We're taking it. You know, what does it mean? Joint Congress. Both houses say we are resolved to take Texas as part of the United States, right? And this causes the Mexican government to immediately suspend relations with the United States, right? I mean, they got to do something, because there's another legal principle that states silence means consent. Silence means you accept it. You don't do anything, that means you accept the situation, right? You got to do something. So they had to do. They signaled their, disapproval by suspending relations, right? And then Polk was inaugurated March 4th and declares he's going to take Texas and Oregon, right? Then on March 10th, he sends Texas the offer of annexation. Hey, you guys want to get annexed, right? And then July 30th, President Polk, through Secretary of War Marcy, orders General Taylor to invade Texas territory, Mexico's Texas, right? This is American forces in Mexican territory, right? And he says, protect these guys, but protect it up to the Rio Grande, and have some of your troops west of the Nueces, which is over here. Here's the Nueces River, right? In this area here, right? And you protect all of it. Rio Grande runs up to here. Here's like El Paso, right around there, right? And then on August 23rd, Marcy sent Taylor orders to consider any large Mexican force crossing the Rio Grande River as an invasion of the United States, and then attack it, repel it with the utmost extent, all the means you possess or command. Right? Then August 30th, he says the same thing. Hey, they cross over. The president considers it an invasion of the United States, right? And hostilities have commenced, right? And he says, go push them back to the other side. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Invasion of the United States. Texas was not even annexed into the United States as a territory, right? Until December 29th, right? How are you saying this is part of the United States? How are you saying that's an act of war? It's not even part of the United States yet. I don't know. I'll bet I'll get some lawyer bullshit attack here. They'll try to worm some Weasley attack here somehow. You watch. There'll be all sorts of lawyer and they're going to shift all focus to one little thing. If they think they got an angle, they'll shift all focus to that. And everyone's going to forget everything else, not put it all together. All right, now the Slido fait accompli setup is this. With the United States threatening to annex Texas in March 1st, and U.S. forces having invaded and occupying Mexico's Texas territory, and diplomatic relations severed, the following happens. On October 13th, Texas accepts the U.S. Offer for annexation. Same day, Slidell, the Slidell request to Mexico that he be received by Mexico is sent, right, with full power to negotiate all complaints, differences, and disputes. I can show you this document, right? But 3 times it repeats it. He's being sent to negotiate all complaints, all differences, all disputes. 3 separate times in this letter, it says that. It repeats it. Full power to, discuss everything, right? So 2 days later, Mexico accepts the offer based upon 3 conditions, right? So the 3 conditions are that the American envoy have, quote, full powers from his government to settle, right? The Texas situation, right? Texas claimed independence. U.S. recognized their independence. U.S. threatened annexation, and now U.S. has military forces occupying it, right? When Mexico sees that as their territory still, right? They're like, wait a minute here. That's still our territory, right? That's not your territory. That's not independent Texas, right? That's still Mexico, they're saying. Now, adequate reparation payments, and also they want adequate reparation payments to Mexico, right? Not that they be jammed with demands that Mexico pay, but they want U.S. to pay, right? And after the long history of crap Americans had done in Texas, 3 invasions, 3 revolutions. Now they're threatening to break away here. Mexico sees itself as, quote, deeply injured by the United States through the acts committed by them in the Department of Texas, which belong to this nation. So they're saying all of Texas belongs to this nation. Now, only this part of Texas was occupied by the Texans. All this was still occupied by Mexicans, right? Well, less Mexicans, right? There weren't that many Mexicans, but it's still Mexican territory. This is where the Americans are, right? They said all of this is still Mexico. And this portion here was the part of Mexico's Texas under rebellion. Now, that's exactly like the American Civil War. No different. When the South seceded, broke free, the North didn't say, okay, you're a separate nation of South America, South United States. No, they said that was the southern states under rebellion. So that's the exact same thing that Mexico said. These are the area under rebellion. We didn't recognize the South as a separate independent nation. We didn't give them recognition. We just said they're territory under rebellion, right? Which they were. Which this was too. No different. All right. Now, in 1208, Slidell arrives in Mexico, apparently for 4 reasons. I remember we said to establish peaceful relations, to demand Mexico pay reparations, to honestly and amicably negotiate the border, right? To offer $25 million to purchase California and New Mexico territories, right? History books say that. I say this is total bullshit, right? Total bullshit. The only real capacity Slidell is authorized is to go down there and jam Mexico with a demand that they pay the U.S., which is an insult to Mexico because they see themselves as the harm party after all the harm Americans have done to them going back to the first filibuster invasion of 1800, right? They rightfully think that they should be paid reparations, and in fact, that was a Mexican condition for receiving Slidell. Remember, there's 3 conditions: full power, you pay us, and we discuss Texas, right? So there was never an offer to pay $25 million to purchase California. I don't know why history books state this, right? In all of Slidell's communications to the Mexican government, I went through these, with a fine-tooth comb trying to find this. Nowhere does he make this offer. There was not one mention of this. Polk never lined up the money, right? So on top of this, Polk never lined up the money. How's he going to make an offer unless there's money's there, right? You say, okay, you go down there and make this offer, right? And then they say, okay, we accept, right? And then, Polk's like, oh, crap. I don't have the money. How am I going to get the money now, right? You just look like an idiot, right? Right? You got to line up that money before you. He doesn't even have the money lined up, right? In fact, even as late as March 30th of 46, Polk was still trying to scrounge up that money when he asked Senator Calhoun if he can get it. Furthermore, right, by this time, Slidell had already been refused by Mexico, right? Right? He requested his passport, right? He's saying, I'm going to head back. And then he reported that he's heading back already on a USS ship, the USS Mississippi, on April 2nd, right? See, this is over already, right? You don't even have the money yet at this point, and he's coming back, right? Finally, why would we think Mexico would sell us California and New Mexico when they're not even willing to give up Texas yet? So think about this. Why would we ask Mexico, hey, would you sell us California territory here and New Mexico territory here, right? When they're not even going to give up Texas. So if they don't want to give up this, why would they sell us something deeper in their country, right? That doesn't make sense, right? Now, why do historians not see that? Right? This is bogus. Why do they say, oh, yeah, he's going on to there's no offer made, right? And why would they even think that they'd sell us? Why would he Polk? They're not even giving up Texas. Why would they think they'd give us up this further into the country? That's just crazy. Now, one of Mexico's absolute conditions for accepting Slidell was that he negotiate the Texas situation. But this is made impossible on December 29th, right? Right in the middle of his visit. He's trying to get received, right? And we annex Texas and then give them immediate statehood up to the Rio Grande, right? My ass, you're trying to be honest and negotiate. We're saying this is ours now. There's no discussion, right? We're not discussing Texas. You receive them anyways. When their absolute condition was they discuss Texas, that's taken off the table, right? We're going to go to war now. You don't receive them. Why would they receive them, right? I mean, does that make sense? I hope this makes sense to you. Texas is now a state in the union up to the Rio Grande. There's no discussion now, right? You want it back, you come and start a war with us. So the U.S. played a dirty game, completely reneging on all of Mexico's conditions, ensuring Slidell be rejected. And then they're going to use that rejection to justify war. You ensure he's rejected. You sabotage his mission down there when he's down there, right? You annex Texas when he's down there. Oh, come on, man, that's a setup. Recall Polk is on record 9 times stating he's going to request war from Congress if Slidell is rejected. In fact, the U.S. went beyond reneging when instead of discussing reparation payments to Mexico, we demanded they pay them, right? Right? So here's a summary. Mexico will not, and cannot accept Slidell for many reasons, including, let's see my battery's at here. 39. Okay, I got to hurry up here. Including, United States violated all 3 of Mexico's stated conditions for accepting Slidell, right? One, that he had full power. He didn't have full power. He had only power to jam Mexico with a demand they pay us, right? That he negotiate Texas situation with U.S. annexation threat and military occupation of the Mexican territory. And then we annex it under their feet, right? And while Slidell was attempting to be received, we annex Texas and give immediate statehood to them, completely violating the Mexican condition, taking it off the table, right? That he negotiate reparation payments to Mexico. Instead, right, they're expecting that we pay them. Instead, we jam them. You pay us, right? With what? With a bunch of conventions? I don't know. I'm not an expert on them, but I'm saying, man, that's questionable as hell, right? You know that people are going to be throwing all sorts of bogus crap and claiming all sorts of crap, right? Anyways, right? Certainly it doesn't add up to 3 invasions, 3 revolutions, right? 3 wars, well, 6 wars you could say, right? So here's what I say. Here's Americans. All right, Mexico. Here's the deal. We steal all of Texas from you, and then you pay us on top of that. Right? And here's the Mexican response. Okay, all right, let us think about this for a second. Okay, so they invade us 3 times, start 3 revolutions, right? That's 6 wars. Then they steal our state, and they want us to pay them money on top of it? What do you think, guys? What do you think? I don't know. Sounds pretty good to me, right? That sounds like a good deal. I mean, come on. That's craziness, right? I mean, even just stealing Texas and demanding they pay us. How do historians not see this? And how are people going to spin this away? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I won't know. They'll try to come up with something, some lying angle, focus on one little thing here, shift all focus on it, right? And I won't know because I'm not tapped into social reality here. All right, so opposition groups in Mexico threatened to overthrow the Mexican government if they receive Slidell, which Slidell reported. So the U.S. knows that if the Mexican government receives Slidell, they're going to get overthrown. All right, that's reported by Slidell to Washington, to Buchanan on 12/17. In his letter to Buchanan, he says, "Hey, listen, Mexican government existence hangs by a thread." And he says the leading opposition journal, he meant newspaper, quote, denounces the proposed negotiation with Slidell, right, as treason, and, quote, openly calls for the troops and people to put down the government by force. That's overthrow the government. That's coup. 12/18, U.S. envoy to Mexico block. That's another guy down there. He's the envoy down there already, right? He reports to Buchanan also on the next day that the Mexican government feared that negotiations with the U.S. now, quote, would produce a revolution against it, which might terminate in its destruction, right? So U.S. knows from multiple sources, right, that the Mexican government faces overthrow if they accept Slidell, right? And in fact, the government was overthrown on the night of 12/29. What's that night of? The night that we annexed Texas. Later that night, they overthrow the damn government. So the Herrera government is overthrown. A revolution, a coup government comes installed. General Paredes is the new government. And then on February 17th next year, Slidell reported to Buchanan that the Paredes government was weak and on the verge of falling. Then on 3/18, he reported that it is possible that Paredes refused to receive him because, quote, the dread of having the pretext which he had so successfully used against Herrera employed against him. What was that pretext? You're going to receive Slidell? I'm going to overthrow your butt. And now Paredes fears that that's going to happen to him. He can't receive Slidell because he's going to get overthrown. See what I'm saying? Right? And then in the same letter here, Slidell reports that the Mexican government is completely bankrupt and could not pay even if it wanted to. He said the country torn by conflicting faction is in a state of perfect anarchy. Its finances in a condition utterly desperate. I mean, they're dirt poor, bankrupt, right? On 2/17, Slidell reported there is not a dollar in the treasury. Okay. All right, they're bankrupt, right? How are they going to pay? So this meant that Mexico was exceedingly weak and easy pickings for the United States government. It also meant that, right? All right. Now, finally, the Mexican government expressed concerns, Pina letter, that acceptance of Slidell would signal to the world that Mexico was accepting the conditions the United States forced upon it. So Pina writes his letter, say, hey, listen, man, here's another point, right? Yeah, if we accept Slidell, that's going to signal to the world that we accept what the U.S. is doing. That they invaded our territory, we accept that. That they're threatening annexation, we accept that. No, we can't accept this guy. Otherwise, it's going to send the wrong message to the world, and they're just going to go ahead and do it and say it's justified, right? Remember the principle of silence means consent. You have to protest in some way. Let me see where my battery's at. Okay, I got a little more time. I'll have to take another break here in a second. So, summary of why Mexico cannot and will not receive Slidell. The U.S. lied and broke all three conditions for Mexico receiving Slidell. Full power. He's not given full power. Discuss Texas. We're not discussing jack. We're taking Texas, right? Negotiate reparation payments to Mexico. We're demanding they pay us after we take Texas. That's craziness, right? Accepting Slidell would ignite a revolution and the government will be overthrown. We knew that, right? Right? We knew that if they'd be over, and they were overthrown, right? Because of that. And then they can't pay us, even if they wanted to pay us, right? They're broke. Accepting Slidell would signal to the world that Mexico accepted as justified all the abuse and theft by the United States. You accept Slidell, you're saying, okay, yeah, it's fine, go ahead, right? Invasion and annexation of Texas. Silence law principle, remember? All right, so because Mexico cannot accept Slidell, the United States maneuvered Mexico into a fait accompli, which they had to reject, and then the U.S. will use that rejection to justify war. So they send him down there under conditions where there's no possible way he's going to get received. And then we're going to say, see, we sent him down there on the most honest, noble, right? Liberal, generous terms to be friends, right? We want to become best buddies with you. We're so kind. And now you reject him? All right? Under those terms? That's such a lie. It's an opposite. Right? So on 12/29, when Slidell was trying to be received by the Mexican government, U.S. annexed Texas and gives immediate statehood. That was one final nail in the coffin, killing any chance Slidell would be received. It's a fate. It's one of the parts of the fait accompli, right? And I said, this is old tricks to getting wars, right? And then we continue to demand Mexico pay us, even after we just stole their Texas territory. You know what? I just noticed my feet feel great. I'm outside here. My feet feel great, right? Anyways, and then on 12/17, Polk notes in his diary he had devised a game to better hook Congress into declaring war based upon Slidell rejection. Now, I'll tell you right now that I don't know if he did this. You know, I didn't find this anywhere if he did it, but he talks about in his diary how he's got this game set up here, right? He doesn't call it a game, but he discusses it, and it's a game. So I'll show you. So first thing is he's going to instruct Slidell that if Mexico either refuses to receive him or refuses to pay, one or the other, he said, you don't have to have both, just one or the other. They don't receive you, or if they do receive you, they don't pay you, right? You leave the country, but do not return to the U.S. Instead, you go and board a U.S. warship at Veracruz and wait there to attempt to be received again, right? To make a second attempt, right? To get received, right? And then Polk says he will then get Congress to authorize a second attempt. He doesn't need Congress to authorize a second attempt. He's head of state, right? As head of state, he's in charge of, of the State Department, right? Of diplomats. He doesn't need Congress to authorize this, right? This is not necessary. Right? So what is he doing? He's hooking Congress into this, right? He's making Congress a part of getting the second attempt, right? This will make Congress personally connected and committed to the second visit attempt, right? Then, if Mexico refuses the second Slidell visit attempt, that will be a direct affront against Congress, which will make it, increase, I don't know how much more, but it's going to increase the likelihood that Congress will declare war because they're directly affronted and resisted, right? So with Congress so conditioned, only then will Polk ask Congress for war, right? This reminds me of the Gulf of Tonkin, right? Part of it, okay? So you need 2 attacks to satisfy the American public. Remember, that's what, wait, where does it say that? Oh, okay, yeah, here. So in fact, on 3/12, Buchanan said a second Slidell rejection was needed to satisfy the American people that all had been done, which ought to have been done to avoid the necessity of resorting to hostilities, right? So remember on the same one, he said, we want to get a war. We got to make sure that it is seen you're rejected. And then he's like, you got to be seen to be rejected twice, right? So that the American public, is satisfied, right? That we did everything, right? We're not being hasty and just rushing to war, right? We tried twice. We bent over backwards, right? Lastly, I mean, that's just like the second, remember the second Tonkin attack never occurred, right? The second, anyways, okay. Lastly, I don't know if Polk requested Congress authorization for a second visit, but this was the plan he discussed, all right? So, I don't know if this was actually done, but he discussed this, right? And you see what a tricky thing he's doing? How he's trying to, I bet you no historian saw that, right? I saw that right away. It's obvious. He's trying to hook Congress. He's trying to make Congress a party to this so he can better hook them into declaring war, right? So finally, Slidell recognized he was being, let's see, how much battery I got left here? I'm going to take a break here. I got to go home and plug this in. So. Okay, I'm back. All right. Okay, so we're now talking about how John Slidell was the guy sent down to Mexico to be received. And he finally recognized he's being used in a fait accompli game to get war. And he twice complained in 2 different documents. 1217 and 1227, right? Both times to Buchanan, who was Secretary of State. So, right here, I say I expect lawyer liars to try to twist and spin these words, right? They'll get an attack here. Say, hey, he didn't say that. That's not what he meant. You watch, right? right? And I'll be like, yeah, yeah. Do you read English? Right. All right. So he says, quote, a refusal to treat with or even receive me at all, right? In the only capacity in which I am authorized to act under pretext more or less plausible is a possible, I ought to perhaps say, a probable event. So he said, I'm not going to, more than likely, I'm not going to be accepted under the only capacity, right, that you're sending me down here for, right? It's a pretext more or less plausible. Only capacity he's authorized to act. That's what he's saying. Uh, okay. So, now, what is that capacity? To jam Mexico with a demand that they pay us, right? They're saying, man, we think you should, all the stuff in Texas, you should pay us reparation for that. Then we'll accept them. But instead, we jam, you pay us. We'll take Texas and you pay us on top of that. How about that? And then the word pretext means false pretenses. And when he says more or less plausible, it's like, man, this is sketchy as hell, right? Yeah, maybe he can pass it off, but man, this is really lame here, right? This is phony, and anyone can see through this, right? That to be rejected is a probable event, not just possible; it's probable. Is a possible. I ought perhaps say probable event, right? Pretext connotes false pretenses. Only capacity is jamming Mexico with demands that they pay us, right? I'm going to skip this here. I'll skip to this. Okay. So 1227, he makes another complaint, right? He says, I may have failed to animadvert, which means to speak out against, with becoming spirit on its. He's referring to a government. Now, liars will say he's talking about the Mexican government, but we'll see that this can only refer to the U.S. government. Becoming spirit on its unparalleled bad faith. Whose bad faith? The Mexican government or the U.S. government? Well, keep that open. It's gross falsification of the correspondence which led to my appointment. Right now, who corresponded? Who appointed Slidell to his mission? Did Mexico? No, the U.S. government. They set him up, right? So this refers to the U.S. government clearly. This refers to the same its. So U.S. government's unparalleled bad faith, U.S. government's gross falsification of the correspondence which led to his appointment, right? And the utter futility of the miserable sophistry. Miserable sophistry. Sophistry means trickery, deceit, deception, by which it attempts to justify its conduct, his mission, right? If I have erred in this respect, I doubt not that you will find sufficient excuse for the error in the peculiarity of my position, unprecedented. Whose position? Who set this up? U.S. government. Unprecedented, I believe, in our diplomatic annals, the absence of all instructions in a contingency so unlooked for, and the feeling of self-abnegation, self-rejection, self-renunciation. He's like, despondent in himself here, which has prompted me rather to subject myself to the imputations of a want of proper firmness and energy than to take a course which could scarcely have failed to close the door upon all subsequent attempts and negotiations and render war inevitable. All right. So he knows it's a fait accompli that is destined to make war inevitable, to shut all chance and negotiations. See, he gets it, right? Slidell gets it now, right? Just watch. You're going to get liars attacked. Oh, it doesn't mean U.S. It means Mexico. Mexico had bad faith. Mexico had gross falsification because they set up your appointment. Mexico didn't appoint Slidell, right? He's talking about his government setting him up, right? Right? In such a bad What does he say? Unprecedented, right? Beyond diplomatic annals, absent of all instructions. Well, Mexico's supposed to give him instructions? Oh, hell no. This is his government, right? Right? Which could scarcely have failed to close the door upon all subsequent attempts at negotiation and render war inevitable. Now, you watch liars. They're going to say, no, it doesn't mean that. It's referring to Mexico's bad faith. You watch, right? This is undeniable, U.S. Undeniable. Right? I just know that people are going to lie. Right? Say, I don't understand it that way. All right? Come a little closer. Let me slap you in the head. All right. Slido knows it is a setup, a fait accompli, and he's complaining, right? Now, only, I say, a retard cannot see this, or a helpless, self-serving liar, which is more likely the case. Liars. People are such self-serving liars. It makes me sick, right? They'll like twist this, right? Which there are many because that is human nature. Remember I said idios, right? Fundamental. This is the id, id, idios, id. All right. So then on 3/12, March 12th, this guy is a new secretary for foreign affairs. Right? He informed Slido that he's not going to be received. Right? So he writes him a letter. It's a long letter. It says, "Oh, we're not going to see you. Sorry." Right? One, because you invaded Mexico. You're invading our territory here. Right? Plus, you got U.S. ships threatening both our coasts, both Pacific Ocean coast and Gulf of Mexico coast. For example, U.S. warships anchored in Veracruz, right? We got ships anchored in their damn main port there, right? U.S. unreasonable demands for reparations, right? Right? He said, "You want us to pay you? You invade our country 3 times, right? You start 3 revolutions in our country, right? Then you steal Texas, and you want us to pay you now? You want money on top of that? That's a joke, right? The U.S. setting in action all manners." So this is his words, right? So he said, "U.S. setting in action all manners of springs, artifices. These are all deception, tricks, right? Devices, alternately plying intrigue and violence, and seizing a moment to despoil her, Mexico, of her precious part of her territory, which is Texas, right?" He's like, you're ripping this off from us, right? With all these tricks, and it's going to be more. It's going to be everything up through California, which Slidell says, which Polk says he wants. All right, so 3/17, Slidell demands his passport. Then April 2nd, he reports to Buchanan that he's left Mexico already. He's on the ship USS Mississippi, heading back. 4/7, April 7th, Polk received word of Slidell's rejection, so Polk knows. Then on April 11th, he said, "Well, I'll wait till Slidell returns." That was his plan all along. Why? It's more powerful when you see Slidell in person and he says he was rejected. That has more effect, right, on Congress. And then on April 25th, you had the 1,600-man Mexican force. That's a regiment. Almost a regiment. Cross north of the Rio Grande and attack a small 63-man U.S. force, wounding and killing 16. Right. And then on May 5th, Polk writes in his diary how he discussed with his cabinet the possibility of a collision between U.S. and Mexican forces. Right. I bet they're expecting it pretty soon. Right. U.S. forces are stationed right across from Mexican forces on the Rio Grande, deep into Mexican territory. May 8th, which is a Friday, Slidell returns to Washington, right? So now Polk can take this before Congress. Polk tells him he will soon. What? Tells him he will soon ask Congress for war. Then later that evening, same evening that Slidell returned, Polk at 6 p.m. receives word of the attack on the 25th, right? Wounding and killing 16 Americans. So Polk has all 3 bullets now, right? Slidell, the attack, the Slidell rejection, and Mexico's refusal to pay the U.S. Right, right. Now, on Monday, uh, Polk addresses Congress requesting war. So let's see what set up the Mexican attack. Right now, we'll examine how the United States provoked the Mexican attack. Right. Remember, I said through 5 acts of war, possibly 6. Right. So here, the U.S. threatened annexation of Texas. That's not an act of war, but that's a threat. Right. They're saying we're going to take your damn territory. Right. We're going to take Texas because we say they're independent. Mexico say, well, wait a minute, that's still our territory. And then on July 30th, General Taylor is ordered to invade Mexico and to protect it up to the Rio Grande. Well, that's act of war right there. Then he's ordered to go further. Consider any Mexican force coming across as good size, consider right, as an invasion of the United States and the opening of hostilities, and you go attack them. Repel means you attack them, kicking back across the river. Right? That's act of war. Now, that never happened. Right? The attack never happened then. They didn't come across yet. So, even though the order's given for an act of war, well, you can't say I count this all as one, because only the invasion happened. I'm sorry, something's in the air. Come on, fucking assholes. All right. Okay. All right. So then on August 30th, a week later, it says you drive. Okay. Let's see. Should Mexico invade Texas, you will employ all your forces to repulse invaders and drive all Mexican troops beyond the Rio Grande. Right. Right. You're here. It said something like your utmost effort, ability, whatever. Drive them across. Right. Right. Attack them with all you got. That's what it's saying. 12/8, Slidell arrives in Mexico City only with a demand that Mexico pay. Right? So they set up the arrangement. Okay, we'll accept him under these conditions. He has full power. He discusses Texas and he discusses reparation payments to us. That's what the Mexico said. Then we'll accept him. So we send him down there with none of those conditions. We assure that he is rejected. Right? And then on 12/29, the U.S. annexes Texas territory, gives it immediate status. That's act of war. We just took their big chunk of their land, right? And on top of that, we say, you pay us. You pay us money on top of that. Thank you very much. Now you pay us some more money. All right. That sounds like a good deal. And then on January 13th, Taylor's ordered to march to the Rio Grande. Right? That's act of war too. That's going deep into Mexican territory. And so then on 2/26, General Taylor reports seizing Brazos Santiago. Do I got a map of that? Oh, maybe I should get a map of that. Well, let's see. Hold on. Let me see. Let's see if I got a map of this. No. Wait. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. No. No, I don't have a map of it. All right. Brazos Santiago goes right at the mouth of the Rio Grande. Let's see here. All right, so here's the Rio Grande River. Flows this way, flows out. Brazos Santiago goes right at the mouth of that. Right? That's the port, and that's where they have the custom house. All right. Custom house is where you collect taxes for import duties. Let's see, where was I here? Okay, here. Okay. Um, okay, where are we at here? Okay. Yeah, this is where we're at. So he reports seizing Brazos Santiago, location of the Mexican customs house. Right, that's taxes, right? Although he says he will allow customs house to remain in Mexican hands, I'm not sure how that's working with Americans controlling all of Brazos Santiago. Um, Anyways, all right. So then Marcy informs Taylor on March 2nd that he has been assigned two Navy warships, the Summers and the Porpoise, right, in the Gulf of Mexico as his naval auxiliary, right. These are the warships that Taylor would order to blockade the mouth of the Rio Grande, which is an act of war, right. Remember I said uh, Anne Greenberg, you know, said Polk ordered that. That was a lie, right? Polk never ordered that, but it was done. This was done. The warships were put in his hands. He was assigned those warships, and General Taylor took this action, which is an act of war, right? He's ordered to go aggressively right to the border of where the Mexican army is at. Okay, so Taylor reports at his arrival on March 8th at the Rio Grande himself. Right. Then he also reports that the local Mexican officials warning that the local population is determined to quote resisting so far as their strength will enable them. Right. And I add this because this is kind of significant. There is a law that's been, I guess a legal precedent. You can say that it said that if you have an army invade a territory, if the local people do not resist, then that territory is legally the invading nations, right? Right? I mean, I think that's kind of that's a principle. I think it's kind of bullshit. I mean, what if Nazi Germany takes some like Bohemia, Moravia? They don't resist. Is that legally theirs? Right? Oh, come on, right? You know, just because they're going to get their butts kicked if they resist. So they don't resist. Well, you can't say it's theirs. Anyways, but anyways, they make they say we're going to resist. So it's not legally United States. They can't apply this law here. Is what I'm saying. All right, and then March 28th, U.S. General Worth informs Mexican General Vega. Uh, 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 General Taylor was well aware of the importance of Brazos Santiago to commerce and the business community of Machimos. And we've taken it away from them. Right? Brazos Santiago is a port at the mouth of the Rio Grande, and it's also the source of supply of the Mexican forces while going through there, right? Going through the mouth of the Rio Grande. It's significant when we blockaded it, right? Okay. So now, April 6th, General Taylor reports to Washington. On our side, a battery of four 18-pounder, these are artillery cannons, will be completed, and the guns placed in battery today. These guns bear directly upon the public square of Matamoros, and within good range of demolishing the town. Their object cannot be mistaken by the enemy. The Mexican army is garrisoned at Matamoros. This is certainly an act of aggression that could warrant an attack, a preemptive attack. Oh wait, I said this. I said this twice. I'm sorry, I got this twice here. So it's the same thing, yeah. So he's pulling guns aimed directly. He's building fortifications across from Matamoros, where the Mexican army is garrisoned. Then he's installing four artillery cannon, good size. 18-pounder is pretty good size. I know, for example, in modern artillery, a 6-pounder is roughly a 75 millimeter cannon shell, right? So it's bigger than 75. It's three times the size of it, right? So it's pretty good size, whatever that translates to in cylindrical cannon rounds. This is spherical cannonballs, and okay, it's different um, as far as dimensions and mass. All right. So he's saying, what's it? that their object cannot be mistaken from the enemy. What does that mean? Right? He says they can demolish. He knows that they know that this is a threat that they can demolish the whole damn town. Right? So he knows that he's sending a threat signal. They cannot be mistaken. Right? Now, I say it's a clear and present threat. I say it's an act of aggression, right? I don't say it's an act of war because, is it? It's not really, right? But if it were Israel in 1967, they're going to say it's an act of war, and they're going to attack. They're going to make a preemptive attack, right? You know, I mean there's a different situation, different circumstances, so I can't really compare, right? Different histories, right? Uh, you know, but anyways, it's borderline act of war, but it's a clear act of aggression, right? That's the question mark there. I remember I said 5 or 6, right? Right. Well, then on 4/12, Mexican General Ampudia demands Taylor withdraw his forces to the Nueces River. He said, "You go back up to the Nueces, right? Right, that's where all the Americans are at, right? Right." And he threatens to use force. Well, then this is what Taylor responds: "I considered the letter of General Ampudia sufficient to warrant me to blocking up the Rio Grande, that's naval blockade, and stopping all supplies for Matamoros, that's supplies to the Mexican army, orders for which had been given to naval commander at Brazo Santiago." Right? He's got those 2 ships there. Naval blockade is always an act of war, which in this case threatened to starve the Mexican army. You're blocking provisions to them, right? So this has to be acted upon. You got to do something about this, right? You're blocking the right. So I'm guessing the Mexican government was facing strong. Well, okay. Now and then 5 days later, Taylor reports that the naval blockade had been enforced. Right, so the Mexicans on this day tried to get some ships through, and they were blocked. Quote, Lieutenant Renshaw of the Navy warned off 2 American. Oh, they're Americans. That's right. 2 Americans were contracted, so they're contracted to give supplies. The Mexicans are such bad shape. They don't have a navy themselves to to supply provisions, right? So they're hiring Americans to do this, right? And Americans will say, "Okay, we'll make some money, right? We don't care about right patriotism, right?" All right, so now they blocked off these Americans who are trying to resupply the Mexican army, right? So what matters is the Mexicans' source of food is being cut off, right? This is the first direct military engagement, so this is an act of war. This, even if a shot was not fired, that they used military force to stop this is an act of war, is a use of force, even without shooting a shot, because you're using your warship. All right. Then on the 22nd, Taylor complains to the Mexican Ampudia that the Mexican civilians are abandoning and burning their own village of Fronton, right? So provide no benefit to the American army. That's typical slash and burn, right? That's what the Russians did when the Germans were invading. You don't give them anything that can help them. Leave nothing for the Germans, right? Right? You slash and burn all your stuff as you're retreating, right? Well, they're doing the same thing. And then Taylor's saying, "Well, that's an act of war." So they abandon their own village and burn it when they leave. That's an act of war. Come on, right? All right. Yeah, I mean, that's a minor point, but I find it kind of funny, right? And he tried to push that. All right, and then on 4/25, you have almost a regiment-sized force crossover, pretty good-sized force, attack this small reconnaissance force. Looks like, and a killer wound 16, right? So word of this finally gets back to Polk on the 8th, right? That's a Friday. He says, "All right, I'll let it. I'll wait till Monday, right?" And then on Monday, he addresses Congress and requests war. And remember what he said? He said, "Mexico has committed a series of long continued and unjust wrongs and injuries upon the citizens of the United States in their persons and property. The United States holds a strong desire to establish peace. We just want peace with Mexico on liberal, generous and honorable terms," right? The United States maintains a readiness of this government to regulate and adjust our boundary and other causes of difference with that power on such a fair and equitable principles. Polk's desire to establish quote, permanent relations of the most friendly nature induced me in September to seek the reopening of the diplomatic relations between the two countries. Now, to establish these friendly relations, an envoy of the United States repaired to Mexico with full powers to adjust every existing situation. Full powers to adjust everything, right? Right? We said three times, everything. We extended a friendly hand, but the Mexican government not only refused to receive him or will listen to his propositions, but after a long continued series of menaces, have at last invaded our territory and shed the blood of our fellow citizens on our soil. Right? Um, okay. Our forbearance has gone to such an extreme as to be mistaken in its character. And what I understand it is, hey, we've been so, generous and patient that they mistaken that as weakness. That's why they attacked us. And that's how I read that. You may differ with me, but I think I'm right. The cup of forbearance has been exhausted. Right? Mexico has passed the boundary of the United States, has invaded our territory, and shed American blood upon American soil. No doubt the liars will try to defend this, saying, "Oh, it's all true because the Treaty of Velasco, right? Oh, it was legit for real, right?" So how does this come across, right? It comes across as we are the innocent victims. We've been generous and peace loving. All we want is to be friends with Mexico. All we want is to negotiate them fairly, to settle all disputes. We send the guy down there with full powers, and in return for our kindness, what do? Right? The treacherous Mexicans, they invade our territory and they kill Americans. Right? Why? Because they mistook our kindness and patience for weakness. Right? Plus, they've been screwing us for a long time. So it's enough to make you angry and crazy and vengeful, right? And Congress was. So they voted for war, right? We're not going to stand for this. We're going to make these Mexicans pay, right? Now, so based on this war, that's how we got the whole Southwest U.S. here, right? So let's go through each part above. Right? Here's what Polk said. Here's the honest situation. Right? Long continued unredressed wrongs and injuries upon the citizens of the United States and their personal property. Right? To a far greater extent, Mexico is the injured party. We invaded them 3 times. We caused started 3 revolutions in their country. Right? Then we took the entire state of Texas. And then we demand they pay some questionable American claims. Right? Like I said, I'm not an expert on this. Any money, some historian's going to say, "Oh, these claims are legitimate," right? I mean, come on, just think about it. You have these open submission of claims. People are submitting all sorts of crap, right? And a lot of this stuff is because of wars that we started, right? All right, I know part of it is. I don't know. I mean, probably a big part. I don't know what else is involved there, so I can't really say. I openly admit that, right? That's just one part of it, right? We cause far more damage. They're not invading the United States, right? They're not trying to start revolutions in the United States. We're doing that to them. The United States holds a strong desire to establish peace. You always have a peace persona, right? Whenever you want to start a war, you got to make it look like you're doing everything for peace, right? So whenever you start a war, you must manufacture for the public consumption every appearance you fervently desire peace, right? We're just doing everything for peace, right? The United States maintains a readiness of this government to regulate and adjust our boundary and other causes of differences. Bullshit, total lie. We're Mexico, first of all, saying we got to talk about all of Texas. And we're limiting that to boundary, and then we don't discuss the boundary. We take all of Texas when Slido's down there and say it's now not just our territory, it's our state. It's a state in the union, right? Come take it if you want it. All right. Okay. All right. They got all the what it says. All differences. Mexico feels that they ought to be paid after all the crap that Americans have done down there. All right. That's the other key difference, right? Okay. Polk's desire to establish permanent relations on the most friendly nature induced me in September last to seek reopening of diplomatic relations between total lie, bullshit, right? He's not seeking to open diplomatic relations. He set them down there in total violation of all Mexico's conditions, right? And a fait accompli, ensuring that he will not be received. Not only did he ensure he will not be received, we knew they couldn't receive him. We knew that if they receive him, they're going to be overthrown. That government's going to be overthrown. And they were overthrown. We knew that they couldn't pay for the reparations, even if they wanted to. They're broke, right? So there was no genuine effort to reopen the relations when we violated every single one of Mexico's conditions for receiving Slidell. That the U.S. Discussed Texas? No, we annexed Texas, right? That we discuss reparation payments to Mexico? No, we demand they pay us, right? That full power be given. Slidell's given only one power. He said it himself, right? And that's the demand. And I swear, in all of Slidell's communications with Mexico, there is never mention of purchase for $25 million. There's never mention, hey, we'll discuss Texas. Well, he does say, oh, I got full power to discuss everything. But you know what? The only thing that he presents is you pay us. That was, liars will bring it up. Hey, listen, right? He's got full powers. My ass, he's got full powers. We take Texas off the table, right? We jam them. We're not going to discuss payment to. We jam them. You pay us. There's no full powers. All right. An envoy of the United States repaired to Mexico with full powers to adjust every. Total lie. No full powers. Powers for none of it. Right? We extended a friendly hand, but the Mexican government not only refused to receive him or listen to his propositions, but after long continued series of menaces. Wait a minute. Who's doing the menaces? Who marched down? Who provoked them? Who occupied their territory? Who built fortifications? Who set up a naval blockade? Right? And finally, they invaded American soil and spilled. Okay, American blood was spilled, but it was in defense of Mexican territory. They did not invade American soil. Right? We did annex it, but it's not justly ours. Right? We could say anything. It's their land still. Right? If you're honest, if you're a decent person, right? If you're fair, a lot of Americans are going to be just USA, right? That's how people are. I swear. It makes you sick, right? Our forbearance has gone to such an extreme as to be mistaken for its character. My ass, bullshit. Forbearance. What forbearance? We invade their land, steal their state, demand we pay them, that they pay us, even after we steal their state. Then we commit at least 6 acts of war. Well, 5, possibly 6 acts of war, right? All of which are provocations. Everything's a damn provocation. Is that forbearance? We're provoking the hell out of them. We're threatening the hell. We built fortifications, that Taylor says cannot be mistaken by them. They know that these can destroy the whole damn town, right? Cup of forbearance. My ass. We're provoking instigators. Right. Mexico has passed the boundary of the United States, has invaded our territory, and shed American blood and American soil. Total bullshit. This is Mexican soil. We invaded them. They're trying to defend their land, right? Again, the liars will say, no, Treaty of Alaska was legitimate, for real. For real. All right. So Polk's justification of wars, they boil down to, well, Mexico attacked Americans on American soil, right? Killed Americans, right? Mexico refused to receive the American envoy Slidell. Uh, this is bullshit. Which was a piece of bullshit, right? We sent him down there, predestined to be rejected, to ensure that he would be rejected. Mexico refused to pay for all the harm and damage they caused Americans over the. Man, I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert on that, right? I know a lot of it was due to wars that Americans started in their country, right? But I'm saying, after 3 invasions, 3 revolutions, we caused far more crap down there. And we take the damn, we take all of Mexico or Texas, right? Who's causing more problems here? Who's causing more damage? We take their whole damn state, their whole territory. So with this Polk got his war through which he acquired all this, all California, all Nevada, Utah, bit of Wyoming, about a third of Colorado, a little bit of Oklahoma, all of Texas, all New Mexico, all Arizona. Well, they had the Gadsden Purchase down here. We paid for a little bit down here so that we can get the Southern Pacific Railroad through there. Right, commerce. Right. My contention is this. So this is my contention from the beginning. Polk wanted to take from Mexico all this land, especially California. He said so. Remember his own diary says, the fine port of California, he covets it. Polk would start a war with Mexico to take their land. Did he start the war? Absolutely. That was totally provoked, totally maneuvered. To start the war, Polk had a 3-pronged strategy: provoke Mexico into attacking American forces. Where those are provocations, repeated acts of war. Send an American envoy Slidell to Mexico with conditions set up to ensure he is not received by Mexico. Then use the rejection as cause for war. Right? Then demand Mexico pay reparations and use the refusal as cause for war. Right? Mexico's thinking, man, you should be paying us. Right? Polk wasn't certain that he would get the Mexican attack, but 9 times he said he would ask for war solely based upon the rejection of Slidell. As it was, Polk got both the attack, the rejection, and thus he got the war, and thus he got all the Southwest USA here. Okay, all right. So that's how we got that. Now, how do these contentions look now? Right? Do they look like they're pretty good contentions? Right? Now, I'm gonna get this from people. It's no different to me. You said nothing. Then if I ask him, well, what did I say? It's like, I don't know. I put it out of my mind already, right? I forgot about it already, right? I tossed it out already. I don't remember. Okay. So then, review Slidell's fait accompli, right? So 9 times Polk is on record stating that he will use Slidell's rejection alone to request war from Congress. We violate all 3 of Mexico's conditions for receiving Slidell, every one of them. We know Mexico cannot receive Slidell due to 1, threat of revolution, which actually occurred. The government was overthrown, right? Using Slidell's, visit as a pretext. And 2, the Mexican government is broke. They cannot pay, even if they accepted him, right? While Slidell is down in Mexico, trying to be received, right? We steal Texas. Totally taking discussion of Texas off the table when that is one of the conditions for receiving Slidell, right? We suckered them. We set them up. Slidell's own complaint of his mission, he said, hey, this is miserable sophistry, miserable trick. You sent me on false pretexts with only one capacity, sure to get me rejected, he said. Jam them with demands of pay, sure to get. And then he says, which could scarcely have failed to close the door upon all subsequent attempts and negotiation and render war inevitable. He gets it finally, right? He got suckered. Slidell wasn't part of the setup here, right? He was set. I say he's like the Maddox. Remember how the Maddox was sent up along the coast of North Vietnam, right where we attacked, right? Well, they weren't told this, right? They were being suckered and sent up there to be attacked, right? Slidell's being suckered and sent down there to be rejected, right? He wasn't in on it. That's why he's complaining now, because he gets it. He's not stupid, right? He gets it. Although liars are going to try to lie about that. Oh, he didn't say what he said. What he said in this. Come on, right? Come on, just learn how to read English, right? All right. So Polk provocation, acts of war. All right. So they invade and occupy Mexican territory. That's act of war, right? Right. Then he said, "You go and attack, right? Any Mexican force. No, it's Mexican land. You attack them, right? They go north of the Rio Grande. That's act of war. That was an act upon, so I didn't count that. Annex Texas and give it immediate statehood. Well, that's act of war, right? March deep into Mexican territory, across from the Mexican army garrison at Machimos. Act of war. Build fortifications and gun emplacements that can destroy the entire town of Machimos with the Mexican army there, right? Whose purpose cannot be mistaken from the Mexicans, right? That's provocation. That's clear threat. Now I'm going short on act of war, right? But that's borderline, right? Impose a naval blockade. That's act of war. Enforce naval blockade. That's act of war. You're threatening supplies to the Mexican army. That's act of war. They got to take action, right? You're forcing their hand, right? You're committing multiple acts of war, right? And then they come across to claim their land, right? 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 And you start this war. It's on you. And we provoke the hell out of them. If anyone doesn't see that, they're an absolutely self-serving liar, which there's a lot of. Okay, so let's review Polk's methods here. You jam Mexico with a fait accompli, demanding they receive Slidell under conditions they cannot accept, and then use that rejection to justify war. Steal Texas and continue to demand the Mexicans pay us, even after we steal Texas, when Mexico has long been the injured party, going back to 1800. Use their refusal to pay as justification for war. Right? Commit multiple acts of war, including invading deep into their country, building threatening fortifications with large cannon emplacements across from their garrison, enforce a naval blockade, right? Right? Threaten them with starvation. Now I say this because they're a large force here, right? I don't know how many it was, like 6,000 or so. I think Taylor's force was about 6,000. Well, they're in the thousands, right? You know, you got to eat a lot of food there, right? You know, they're going to go hungry pretty quick. Okay, to induce an incident, and then 16 Americans are wounded or killed. Then use that to justify war, right? So all right. Then you feed Congress a load of bullshit, right? Oh, we're such innocent, peace loving. We've done everything, right? We gave full power to negotiate everything. Oh, bullshit! You gave no powers to negotiate any of it. We backed off and we rescinded. We reneged on every single one of Mexico's conditions. All right. So then you feed Congress this load of dried up bullshit, right? And you get them all riled up and hating the evil, dastardly Mexicans who mistook our kindness and patience for weakness and attacked us, right? And then you whip them up so that they declare war, right? And it worked. Now, can Congress be suckered into wars? Only over and over again, right? Why can Congress be suckered into wars over and over again? Because history repeats itself. Why does history repeat itself? Because no one learns jack from history. They fall for the same damn mistakes over and over again. All right, so here's modern relevance. So this happened recently, right? And this is relevant because it relates to war on terror. All right, now this comes from Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter is a super patriotic right-wing Republican, right? who was hard charging. He was the lead United Nations weapons inspector in Iraq between 1991 and 1998, and he was, you know, kicking ass trying to find WMD. He was setting up these inspections. He was arranging all the U-2 flights, all the communications. He was trying to do everything because he's getting no help from the CIA. In fact, he's getting obstruction from the CIA. You got to read his book. He said they're screwing with his operations. They're sabotaging his operations, right? You think, oh no, the CIA wouldn't do that. They're playing dirty games, right? So he says this. This is March of 1998. Okay, and he says that his boss at the UN, a guy named Richard Butler, comes into his office and drew on a whiteboard, right? Right. I think he drew it vertically the way it said or something. Anyway, so this is kind of like what it is good enough, right? So he draws a calendar. All right, here's the 1st of the month. Here's the 15th of the month, right? 15th March, right? He said he just saw Sandy Berger, Clinton's national security advisor, right? And Berger wants to bomb Iraq on March 15th, right? Which means what he wants to bomb on that date because it's a Muslim religious holiday. Now, why do you want to bomb on a Muslim religious holiday? Oh, because we want to be friends with them. We want to make them happy. No, you want to jack them up, right? What if Al Qaeda bombed us on Christmas? You know, Americans would be crazy mad. They're mad enough on 9/11. You bomb them on Christmas, they'll be crazy mad. You're gonna say you did that intentionally, right? And we'll be just crazy mad, right? So we want to bomb them on their religious holiday, right? Now, what the hell is Sandy Berger getting involved in UN weapons inspections to begin with? What power should he have? How is he pushing this upon the UN, right? I mean, that's something that's screwed up there as it is, right? So then he says, okay, so that what that means is we got to get an inspection by the 7th here, right? If we want to bomb here, we got to get an inspection here. And on this inspection, when you go in there to Iraq, you jam them and demand that you inspect the Iraqi Ministry of Defense, right? That's their Pentagon, right? Yeah, I should draw a little Pentagon here. That's like their, yeah, I'll draw it here. Oh, okay, that's like their Pentagon, right? Let's see here. Okay, so you demand you inspect their Pentagon, right? And he says they got to refuse. Why? Because Tariq Aziz, who is Saddam Hussein's right hand man, he was a foreign minister during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, right? And he's Saddam's right hand man, right? He said it is the Ministry of Defense is totally off limits, and to inspect that would mean war, right? And then he says he can't back down. And then when they deny the inspection, because they can't back down, the U.S. will use that to justify bombing. We'll bomb their ass on the 15th, get our attack on their holiday. Well, what actually happened was Iraq was like, oh crap, they're scrambling, what the hell. All right, we'll let you inspect, right? They backed down, right? But then they stopped cooperating, right? And then we pulled out the inspectors, right? It's often said by people, oh, Iraq kicked them out. No, the U.S. and the UN pulled out the inspectors, right? And then we bombed them for 3 days in a row right before Ramadan. I believe Ramadan was on the 22nd of December that year, right? So for the 3 days before that, whatever that is, 18, 19, 20, whatever, right? We bombed their ass for 3 days straight, right? So we get their bombing on the religious holiday anyways. We get their bombing on the religious holiday, their main religious holiday after all. How about that, right? Look at the stuff that's played in Dirty Games, right? Now, this was only one of many dirty games that Scott Ritter talks about in his book, right? Iraq Confidential. Read his book, right? Um, and so while 560,000 Iraqi kids died due to starvation or malnutrition caused by the UN sanctions on oil sales, right, which were contingent upon WMD inspections, right. The CIA and U.S. were playing dirty games with these WMD inspections. In fact, Ritter said he was hard charging, trying to find WMD, and the CIA wasn't helping him. In fact, they were obstructing. He goes through multiple examples of how they obstructed his efforts, right? I don't want to go into all the details right here. I can talk it off the top of my head, but it's a diversion, right? There's a number of things they did to block his efforts to find WMD, and he said he couldn't. He said he couldn't explain this other than that the CIA's goal was not to find WMD, but to ensure that the public believed that Saddam was concealing WMD. Their goal was not to find WMD. Their goal was to make sure that the public said Saddam was lying and concealing and hiding WMD. Right? Does that sound like it was relevant to the Iraq invasion war? Right? That's what we said. He's hiding. He's lying and denying and hiding and concealing. Right? And then we justified that war. Right? So now, why this is significant? Right? Oh, by the way, I wrote this off the top of my head. Right? Right? But tell you what, I haven't reread it again. Here is what he says. This is a direct copy from his book. You can read it yourself. Now, would I say this? What is more important, right, than is the fact that the death of all these kids became one of Bin Laden's chief reasons for attacking the U.S. on 9/11. He had about a half dozen reasons, right? Most of it had to do with oil, and they're screwing us with oil, and they're causing all sorts of trouble in the Middle East, and they're doing it for oil, or whatever, right? That's stuff he's saying, right? And but he mentioned these kids, right? He said there's 600,000 kids, so he exaggerated a little bit, but the hell is damn close. I mean, it's over 500,000 anyways, right? So this becomes a reason why he attacks us on 9/11, and that kicks off the war on terror, right? So see what you get for playing dirty games, all right? Now, does the American public know this? No, it's USA, USA. We only do good, right? Americans are so deluded, right? All right. So, well, here's a commentary on history. This is the best of our history, right? Scholarly books. They're crap. They don't see jack, right? Either they're lying or they're just not. They don't have the brains enough to see it. I swear. I mean, that sounds like I'm being mean, but I tell you what, man. All this stuff just pops out of me. I see it right away. I get what they're doing. They don't see jack, right? They blah 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 for a full book, and they don't even know what's going on, right? And it only gets worse as you go down this list, right? History Channel, news media. Oh goodness gracious! And then you got Hollywood movies. That's crazy bad, but that has the biggest effect on the American public, right? So I'm telling you, history is not the way it was. History is the way people say it was, and a lot of that is just crap, right? You trust our history? Oh my goodness, right? But the historians are going to attack me. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's crazy. He's stupid. He doesn't know. He can't figure this out. He doesn't. Right? Man, right? And who are these expert historians? They don't do crap for looking at original source documents, right? Right? A lot of these guys are crap teachers. I'm serious, right? And then you think they don't go to original documents themselves. They may read a book and then they're not going to remember jack from this book, and they'll say, "I'm the expert." A lot of people think they're experts. They don't remember jack from books. They don't even read these books, right? They just say, "I'm an expert. I teach history." Okay, and they're going to attack you. And then what's going to happen is this: they're going to make a big wave. Now they won't do it today. They'll wait a day, right? Because right now, if you think back, you'd be like, if I ask you, what did you learn? You're like, oh crap, what specific? You had trouble stating three things, and you're gonna get them sketchy, vague with errors, right? Right? But you got the overall impression, you got the overall idea. Now, tomorrow, right? Without the overall impression is no longer based on any facts. It has faded. It's no longer anchored in anything real, right? Your reality is no longer so you know that's faded, is gone, right? So then when the overall impression is faded, it's weak. It's subject to attack. And they're gonna shift all focus to a single point attack, right? They'll make a big ass wave saying, "Oh, we're all the experts," right? They'll get everyone, saying the same crap. It'll be something big, dumbass, simple, stupid wave of social reality, right? And that will be the only thing in the minds of the masses. That's it. They won't remember anything what I taught, right? So this will be their ultimate, full, complete reality, nothing more, right? And it's a joke. And then they'll say, "See, it is crap," right? We knew it. See, I just knew. Just give enough time, they'll be proven wrong. Proven wrong. Nothing's proven wrong, right? That's exactly what's going to happen. I've seen it done well over 20,000 times. Social reality always dominates. Remember, I said my big challenge here. I said, "Hey, I'm going to be fighting social reality waves, right? Versus too many facts that people aren't going to retain. Well, what's going to win? The simple thing that dominates your brain, right? It's simple, stupid, baseless, but it's going to dominate. It always does." All right. I mean, that's all. So that's my commentary upon history, right? You gonna trust history? You gonna trust these historians, right? They're either stupid or they're liars, right? I mean, not all of them, right? There's some decent historians, right? Uh, uh, I like Palmer. It's a general. It's a very well written book, and it's very fair. Uh, anyways, all right, but you got to go back to the original source document yourself. You can't trust these guys, right? You got to, right? I mean, there's historical landmines, right? All right, so that's it for that. Hope you learned something.